OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
Hello, good morning and welcome along to OTB AM. It's Adrian and Eoin with you this morning right the way through until 10 o'clock. A stack show again this morning. Eoin, how are you getting on?
Good, Adrian. What's the crack?
All good. Just been chatting a bit off air there about I can't get some of those Liverpool anthems, songs out of my head. Not just from last week, but just generally over the last while. I was at Anfield a couple of years ago, and there was a couple of them, and I thought, oh geez, if I'd never hear that again, it'll be too soon. But I've gone 180 on it now again, and I'm.
Why? What's changed?
I don't know. Maybe it was like the pipe stuff or the lack of it, and then so you get a good break from it. But maybe that's what it is, and now it's all back in full flow. But yeah, you're not so much a fan.
I think does everybody not find that other people's songs about their team insufferable? Like that, is that not the whole point? That it's a very tribal thing, and if you're not in the club, you're not in on the joke, or you're not in on the enjoyment of the song. So I find all football songs, unless I'm a fan of that team, relatively insufferable. Unless it's Liverpool fans singing Ollie's at the Wheel last week, unless it's like a new ironic sort of thing, then I'm all for that. But the general sort of si senor thing does kind of, it's just like, I'm not a Liverpool fan, so why would I be like, oh yeah, I love this song? It's like Roberto Firmino is an objectively good footballer. I've got no particular passion for him, unless maybe he's in my fantasy football team, which would be not a very smart thing to do by and large. So I'm kind of passive about it, to be honest. Like, are you a Liverpool fan now, or what's the story here? So?
I'm not, but as an Arsenal fan, I would have thought that, like, why would anybody be upsetting you too much? Like, maybe Brentford, or like somebody down the lower reaches on. I don't know why you'd be getting too worried about things happening up there.
I'm not upset. I'm just like, I don't have any particular. I'm not like, oh, great song there, Liverpool. I'm really, really, really love that catchy tune you guys
that's
pumped out there, which is the same tune as every other team has, and all the tunes are exactly the same, let's not forget. So
I don't know, actually, do you know one thing that definitely has resulted in me leaning in on, to use that expression, on Liverpool's songs over the last while, was like there was a dude on TikTok who seems to write, I don't know how much of these songs he's actually written. He's definitely written a couple of them. He had one about Thiago, and so I spent about 20 minutes the other day just watching. Yeah, he goes around and he obviously does a few gigs, and it's all Liverpool fans, and it's all Liverpool songs and stuff. So that definitely had me thinking about
the Kevin Murphy "We've Got Salah" a couple of years ago was good. That was a good moment. That was objectively good. But by and large, it's a fan group that you're not a part of singing a song. I'm not like, ooh, I need to listen up here and join the chorus.
Liverpool fans are a bit like Munster fans, aren't they? In that, like,
go on. Well, you hate Munster fans.
Nobody having them more than themselves. I don't hate Munster fans, but
you do. No, you absolutely despise Munster.
They're definitely having themselves.
You definitely have a soft spot for real hatred towards Munster. You may think, ladies and gentlemen, that Adrian Barry doesn't have a place for hate in his heart, but when it comes to Munster, there's certainly a little special room there. So you've got a little ensuite of hate for Liverpool, it turns out, as well.
There's no hate, and it's definitely no, exactly. It's not a hatred towards Liverpool at all. I can't.
R.I.P. or mentions.
I literally can't get the songs out of my head. That's what I'm saying. But I'm only making the point that and I do take myself back to a conversation with Phil Thompson the year that we had on here, the year that they actually went on to win the title, and I was kind of suggesting to him, well, sure, look, doesn't most people want to see Liverpool win the league? And he was like, he shot me down, to say the least. So I'm conscious of that as well, that probably more people are in your bracket of like couldn't care less about Liverpool songs, how good they are, whatever.
What's the Munster Liverpool comparison?
In that there'd be, I would sense that both sets of supporters they're big fans of themselves.
Okay, go on.
Like Munster by the grace of God. You know what I'm saying?
So you're just having
I think that Liverpool would be very much, if they were to have a banner about themselves, which is what that particular one is. I think that they'd be very closely aligned in that regard.
Liverpool by the grace of God, as you board a Ryanair flight from Ireland to go support Liverpool. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
As people will point out, most of Munster's great fans are not from Munster at all.
It's true. It's a very good point, and I would suspect, but I guess that comes in waves, doesn't it? I don't think there's been too much Munster by the grace of God stuff recently, whereas by contrast there probably has been a lot of Liverpool by the grace of God stuff recently, because Liverpool are very good at football right now, whereas I would suspect that there was a bit of laughing at oneself there for a few years until they actually managed to get good at football again in the pre-Klopp years. So I don't know, I think there would have been a heavy dose of irony about the special nature of the club, and I think as a fan group they're pretty okay at laughing at themselves, but they're also pretty good at loving themselves as well, which I don't think is too dissimilar to any fan group. I think it's just in focus because they're very, very good right now.
That's exactly the point. I think you're totally entitled to have yourself and to have the team that you support, as long as you're supporting them. He says, backing out of a comment knowing that one of the club legends is on the line and ready to chat to us now in a couple of minutes. So it's 25 to 8. It's Friday morning. We have a stacked show coming your way between now and 10 this morning. Here's a bit of a flavour of what's on the menu today. We have Ronan O'Gara lined up. It's his season debut, and we'll be talking to him in just a couple of moments' time. Sheahan Keegan is going to give us a bit of a debrief and a deep dive on what happened with Manchester United last weekend, how deep-rooted the issues there are, and looking ahead as well to what's to come for them over the next few weeks. Let you know what's happening across the back of the sports pages at about 25 past 8. John Duggan will be along with the latest in the world of live sport at 20 to 9 this morning. Harriet Pryor from the Anfield Wrap is going to give us the other side of events last weekend and exactly where that win rated in her time covering the club, and a similar question as to what it means for the rest of Liverpool's season. Live crappy quiz at 20 past 9 this morning. Myself versus Ger versus Will, which I think automatically puts Will in the favourite seat for that one, and then John Giles will round out the show from 20 to 10 this morning. So that's what the show looks like, and if you have any comments, do please keep them coming into us over the course of the morning. You're watching OTB AM, brought to you by Gillette. Good mornings start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors, and we are going to talk to Ronan O'Gara in just a couple of moments' time. And I do see that there's a lot of coverage this morning when we were talking about the football of Wayne Rooney's comments yesterday in relation to it. I mean, it's here in the back page of the Sun. Shirkers, too many Manchester United players are not pulling their weight, and that's unacceptable. And I will say, in the same newspaper, they've got a photograph, which I presume is taken from one of his social media feeds, of Ronaldo flexing the thighs, and they are impressive thighs, to be fair, in what appears to be a home gym that's lashed together by a 17-year-old who's suddenly sort of, got the weights buzz. But and he's telling his followers, obviously, well, just so you know, I am working hard. But yeah, Wayne Rooney's comments were interesting. Not calling out anybody specifically, but just generally, lads, you're not putting a shift in.
Yeah, like there's definitely an element of that. Like if you spoke about Solskjaer before the season, there was definitely a whole wave of positivity around him. And okay, we are 10 games into the season at this point, plus Champions League games. It's a decent chunk of the year, but it does seem things have unravelled quickly. And along those lines, it does seem that the players have not jumped ship, but they've started to leak things. There's definitely been a little bit of an abandoning of the loyalty towards Solskjaer, it seems, from within the camp over the last little while. So I think that Rooney's onto something. I think there's enough blame to go around at that football club at the moment, for sure. But it does seem that the knives are out from within for Solskjaer at the moment, which doesn't necessarily sit well. Yeah,
because I think part of the issue is and can tend to be at clubs like that, where the manager ultimately, things are going wrong with the manager to the point that I don't think there's anybody really that's defending. Even the people who are not criticising him are definitely not defending him. There's very few that make the case that Solskjaer should stay on. The players shouldn't be blameless and all of that, but I suppose the assumption that you make is that maybe if a new manager comes in, that he can re-engage them. People don't tend to go, well, that large swathe of players who've just ultimately checked out of trying to play for this guy are buying into it. And we'll talk to Sheahan Keegan about it a bit later on, but certainly looking at some of his analysis, you look at it and you go, surely the coaching staff are aware of this stuff, but it feels at times as if the players aren't just trying to leg on it. And that maybe, a new manager comes in and he can do that. But you do go back to Roy Keane's comments. Remember a couple of years ago, was it 3 years ago, when Solskjaer came in and he said, listen, this bunch of players are going to see a lot of managers out the gap with the attitude that they have.
Yeah, I forgot about that actually, and I think that attitude has kind of come to the fore in recent days. And not to labour the point here a little bit, and I'm sure that agents have a big part to play in all this, but it's interesting how the tap of information about the manager and about the training has suddenly been turned on. Or turned off. The tap's turned off. The flow has increased from the dressing room after last week, after a couple of bad results, which suggests to me just a dressing room that is willing to pile on when they feel they're under a bit of pressure, which I don't think is a. I would have loved to have. I would love to know what Roy Keane thinks of all that, for example. And I do think you can be critical of Solskjaer as a manager and at the same time question why all of a sudden these leaks are coming from the dressing room at a time when they need to stay united as well. I think both those things can be critically analysed at the same time.
Yeah. And I think as well, like when it's coming from somebody like Wayne Rooney and his stock is so high, and he's given his position at the minute, he's never going to be that critical of the manager. It's not as if he's being paid to be a full-time pundit. He's literally on the other side of the fence, so it suits him obviously to say that. But as you said, there's plenty of blame to go around. But like, yeah, I'm laughing at like Ronaldo just taking to a social media feed to say, like, you know, it might be the rest of them. They might not be trying a leg. Did you see the bit of the little clip of him going around that after the United game where he was like throwing his arms in the air?
Yeah.
Everybody was saying that this is him mimicking Solskjaer's sort of, here's all my tactical stuff, and that was basically him going, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was quite funny, and clearly there is a lack of respect on some level for Solskjaer if that's what you're getting from your star player. Like Ronaldo, there is a sense from him posting those pictures and from that sort of stuff as well that there is a great deal of self-importance involved there as well, which I mean is only natural when you're considered to be one of the greatest players of all time, but it maybe doesn't feed into an environment that's going to keep Solskjaer in his job for too long. At the same time, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, this guy's either going to last 1 game longer, 5 games longer, 10 games longer at the max, so we may as well just make this thing quick and painless, and let's just let everybody throw our weight behind getting this guy out. And maybe you can see why to a certain point, but I think that there's there's going to be a big question for the new manager when he comes in to see what they actually do with Ronaldo, because it does seem that it's become a little bit of a problem. And I'd love to know, especially under Antonio Conte, what version of Cristiano Ronaldo we're going to see, because he does have a part to play. It's just what sort of part does he play in the Premier League, and if it's not going to be Conte, and it does seem that there's some suggestion now that Conte may be too expensive for Manchester United and they may not be willing to pay his wages. Who will the next manager be, and to what extent will the Ronaldo inclusion be a part of appointing that next manager? Will you be appointing somebody, and part of the interview process is, listen, we've got this guy who we're spending a lot of money on every week. It was clearly our maverick player here, or a talismanic player here, and we need you to get as much out of him as possible.
That for me, I think is that conversation isn't going away. Like, that's going to be a weekly conversation once the new manager inevitably comes in, and like, even as part of that interview process, where's the room in that for the manager to go, well, listen, to be honest with you, he ain't part of my plans. Like, there should be, there really there has to be. I mean, because otherwise it's the club saying to the manager, you got to start this player, he's got to be involved. And like, that's the reality. Like, Ronaldo has not come in, nor is he going to hang around at this stage of his career to be sat on the bench. I think that's a conversation that isn't going anywhere, and I think that, like, you know, you can definitely make a case that if all that is true, and we assume it is, that's the biggest problem that Manchester United will have, that they'll have to play this player, and he just throws he you know, for what he gives you, right? And like, if you look at the Ireland game as a case in point of a player who, you know, was pretty much out of the game for about 89 minutes and then steps up and lashes in 2 goals in the classic way that he does. There's been a bit of that about him with Man United as well. But, you know, is a manager willing to hang his United career on that?
I'm not, obviously not, but like, I think that there is definitely a way in which Ronaldo can be an important part of this team over the next little while. I would just have concerns if it's Antonio Conte coming in and how he likes to play football, that he can actually be a centre forward that can fit into that system, which is obviously a bit more high energy than Ronaldo would like. He obviously got a tune out of Diego Costa when he won the Premier League title with Chelsea, but it's a very, very different proposition.
Yeah, all right. Damien on YouTube saying Ole has to go, no question. But until Pogba goes, there'll never be harmonious dressing room. Fergie would have offloaded him pretty quickly, says Damien there on YouTube. So do keep your comments coming into us. It's about that or anything else. Our questions for any of our guests this morning, do keep them coming into us between now and 10 a.m. this morning. It's 7:45. Delighted to say that for the first time this season, he said he wasn't coming on until they won 3 games in a row. Ronan O'Gara, good morning to you.
I didn't say that.
Just to be clear.
How are you?
How are you keeping?
Good, yeah, thank you. I hope the reception is okay. It seems a bit slow here, but...
No, all good. All good. 3 wins on the bounce now, but hard, tough start to the season, I presume, over the last few weeks.
Yeah, we're playing Perpignan tomorrow, so it's game 9. So it's season is well underway, and yeah, it's a brilliant championship. Every week you got to go, and We played Toulon last Sunday, and we play tomorrow. We play Friday night, and then there's a break for the November internationals for 2 weeks, which is great. So everyone can't wait really till next weekend.
Yeah, and a big win last weekend, as you said. Over those first few weeks, is it just that the opposition, like you mentioned, the quality obviously of the league, is it just the opposition are so good and you can just square that stuff off and go about your business, or is there a lot of inward looking over that time?
Oh no, we were definitely suffering from a hangover from last season. There's no doubt about that, because which is normal, really. I think losing one final is bad and it's depressing, but losing two is pretty difficult to handle or to get an understanding on. So a lot of boys and staff still are probably looking for answers, but sometimes in sport there aren't answers. And I think we had really tough opponents. We had a red card in one game, we were away in other games. So the great thing about it, there was never any panic. I think what's been established among us has been that we understand that we're a good team. I think once you probably understand that, it gives you probably an opportunity to grow, to get better. But there were some frank discussions, because where the club is, it's not a Toulouse, it's not used to winning. It has never won anything. It was in the second division 6 seasons ago. So with certain people, there's I suppose a different mental capacity. So you're just trying to piece that all together, Adrian. And when I'm in a new role, well, it is a new role in terms of a title, but in terms of how, I suppose, my functions, not much had changed, but perception sometimes isn't reality on the outside. So you're just trying to manage that as well, and you're obviously frustrated, because we understand we're in a results business, and when the results don't go your way, you try and fix it.
Mayo were in my mind as you were chatting there about like teams who can get to finals, and like there are very few who can get over the line, and like the two competitions that you're talking about, it obviously ends up being the best team in Europe that's gone on to win both of them. There's not a lot of room at that table for everybody, and it doesn't sound like that's the sort of thing that, like, I suppose maybe the question is, in hindsight, is there a different way to deal with that, or is that just, do you have to go through that grieving process?
No, you don't. And I think actually one of the learnings would be too, I think the first final is probably the easiest one to win, and other people would say, well, you got to get to a final and lose a final to win a final. No, I don't agree. I think you look at Twickenham, we had a red card, but we were probably very, very close to getting that result, even with 14 men and even with probably a contestable decision at the end. But you got to take the referee out of it. That's always been our mantra. But I agree with you. I think when you look back now, you know what I mean? I think you really have to understand finals footy is very, very different to a league campaign. And I think, me included, we put such emphasis on getting to the final that some of the feedback has been quite interesting, on the fact that, well, the goal was to get Stade de France on the 26th of June. Well, yeah, it was, but you know what I mean? We understand that getting to the final, usually, if you're a competitor, you get to final, you want to do the business, but some people in the squad were of the understanding that, okay, we got to the Stade de France on the 26th of June, so that the goal was achieved. We didn't have to win, boss. I was there kind of, I don't really see it like that, but it's an amazing learning for me in the fact that, in the fact that if you probably don't set out your vision very, very clearly, or never assume that everyone was understood that we were going to a final to win it, then people might think that there's a little bit of leeway here. Well, no, we're here, we're in a final, that's good enough.
when somebody says that in a team meeting, did your
No, but it's brilliant honest feedback too, Adrian. You know, it's a kind of a courageous guy to say that, and you got to respect that, because you got to understand that some of these guys are 25 years younger than you, so that's okay too. That's the squad you're coaching. This is what's happening, so you can't give out or moan. This is the culture or the environment that I created, so I take that on the chin.
And how do you go about remedying that, Ronan? Are you almost looking for them to feel more pain as the off season goes on?
No, I think there is naturally a grieving process. I think everyone deals with it very differently. I don't think there's anything in the manuscript about that. What's been, I suppose, evident this year is that I'd be a fan of the mental game, so you have to bring that in at a level where, I suppose, the fascinating thing for me and for in France is the fact that it's not known as in the same language. You're thinking in English, translating into French, and trying to deliver your point or your message in French, and one word can really mess up your message. So that's very challenging. But you're also trying to get your staff and a sports psychologist on board. But with that too, you have to have your pre-meeting and your meeting to make sure that it's your message and not his or her message in terms of what they want out of the session, because it's a very, I suppose, delicate subject in the fact that to grow as sports people, it's very easy, I suppose, to monitor the physical side, but the mental side, for me, it's little and often, but you got to keep chipping away, and then hopefully when that period of pressure arrives, and sometimes pressure, as we know, in sport may only arrive once or twice a season, but it hit us in Stade de France right between the eyes against Toulouse in the second final, and I knew in the stand within 10 minutes that we're off here. It's going to be a long night, and it was only, I think, 10 points of a difference, but it was, for me, it felt like 100 points.
All right. To spool it forward to the start of this season, the expectations that you created last season, you mentioned earlier on the change in your own role and the new staff that you brought in, did that mean then that over those first few weeks that that pressure, suddenly you were like, shit, this is really on me now? Is that?
No, I don't think so. It's always, I suppose, I played number 10 for Munster in Ireland, and I love the Dan Carter expression, the pressure is a privilege. That doesn't really come into my head, Adrian, or making changes in the staff. Pressure, it doesn't really, there'll always be pressure, but it's how you look at that. It's incredibly enjoyable. It's what I love doing. I'm passionate about rugby. I love it. So, like, in terms of a new role or new responsibilities and new pressure, no, that doesn't kind of come into my head. I'm aware of what I'm doing, but it doesn't really change. I think the biggest challenge I face is probably the pressure I put myself under. So I'm very happy with that, and I enjoy that. But I'm human after all, in the fact that what I insist on is good preparation. If we have good preparation, and I honestly, after we had 1 win out of 5, I think at the start of the season, but the mood was very good. I think my relationship with the players, or my behaviour every week, didn't really change, because I was happy with what I saw, and people go, wow, he's got low standards for winning 1 game out of 5. But I think there were a few reasons why we were 1 out of 5, and I was kind of happy with what I was seeing. And once you're happy with what you're seeing, you can accept it. But the Montpellier game, I think we crossed the line where there was a lack of desire for the jersey. Once there was a lack of desire, it was big time on the head coach, and I had to address it. And I don't need to have a week like that again. But the response has been great.
How do you go about addressing that?
I think you have to be good at video analysis. You have to be really accurate with the clips you present, and I think you got to ask a lot of hard questions of yourself first, of your staff secondly, and of your playing group thirdly. And once I think you probably show vulnerability, people are on board, and I think that we had a difficult week, but since then it's been good.
With the new gig you mentioned earlier on, what's the lived experience of now? You have a few months under the belt. Is it exactly what you expected, or how have you found it?
No, it hasn't been. It's been incredibly time consuming, and it's the first time I've probably experienced that. In fact, that I've always felt capable of walking out. I struggled with walking out and leaving. I wouldn't say work, but leaving my rugby position for the last 3 or 4 months. But it's not sustainable what I'm doing, so I've got to be better at that. Donncha Ryan is in, and I'm kind of introducing him to coaching, and I'm trying to get him to get him involved in something that I hope he'll love. But at the minute, I'm not creating the right conditions for him. So in that regard, I'd love to hear what his vision of what's happening at the minute is. Because
why do you say we'll have to get him on and talk to him about that? But what's your instinct?
My instinct is that the hours are too long. It's not that enjoyable, and we could do it differently, But I think we haven't established a routine yet between us. We barely get to see each other, and that's not good, because he's into a new role, I'm into a new role, but we're just trying to figure it out, I suppose. And you're learning on the run as well, and that's what happens, I suppose. The coaching group lacks experience, but it doesn't lack hunger, and it doesn't lack energy, and it doesn't lack, I suppose, the capacity to be able to do however we want to do it, which excites me.
Do you accept that that's just a fact of life as to where you're at with that new gig now, and that's just something that you have to work through, and there's no other way around it? Or
yeah, I do, and I enjoy that as well. I think I'm not a guy for staying in your lane. I've clearly identified roles and responsibilities within the staff, but I think a dynamic coaching group has the capacity, which Donncha Ryan is brilliant at throwing curveballs left, right and centre, and I think that's how you get better.
Can I ask, Ronan, you obviously Donncha Ryan's coming in and learning from you. Who are you learning from the most at the moment, or who do you talk to if you've got an issue, or not so much an issue, but if you're looking to kind of tease something out or try and continue your own development as a coach?
Yeah, it's a great question. I probably still have the Crusaders framework as my sounding board, and it's obviously a complete different competition and different framework. But yeah, I've created a really good relationship with the playing staff and the coaching group there, so that would be my, I suppose, personal development.
You'd send a text down to the gang in Crusaders?
You could, or just pick up the phone. I think it's the beauty of the free WhatsApp, so these days on.
Yeah, bit of a stupid question there. I think it's literally pick up the phone. And is it like a constant thing? Is there? I mean, I guess you're probably at the stage as well, Ronan, where you are still actively looking to improve, while at the same time people are looking to you within the system, saying this guy is the head honcho, and this guy needs to have all the answers in a way. Is there ever any sort of tension there in your own head? I mean, between those two little roles.
No, you're right, but it's. I suppose you're 10 weekends in a row, and that's one of probably the things I can get better at. And the fact too would be, do you do a review after 5 blocks, or do you do a review after 10 blocks? But it's been pretty hectic in terms of review preview on the bounce. But if there's something that's that you struggle with, which I obviously struggle with plenty of, I suppose, subjects in the game, I have good people. Even there's a lot of coaches too in Paul and Jerry Flannery, Stuart Lancaster, guys like that did that are very, very open to chatting about rugby.
Did you blow the top last weekend, or what happened with the fourth official?
No, completely. I was making a joke, I think, in the fact that if there was probably a week where I didn't deserve a sanction, it was last week, because sometimes you get a little bit hot-headed in the French league, which is something I need to get better at as well. No, it was the fact that I didn't do my paperwork. I didn't notify the officials that I was. You have to put it on, like write it into like a player's sheet, a playing sheet, and present it to the fourth official before the game. And I told my manager, I said, no, I'm going upstairs today. I did go upstairs, and I went upstairs for 60 minutes, and then I came down, and he said to me that you can't stand there. And I said, okay, I'll go into the dugout. I went into the dugout, but then I infringed on. I came out towards the side of the pitch once or twice, so I'm going to face a hearing about that.
All right, we'll watch during the week. Before we let you away, we wanted to ask you about the squad. Obviously, is gathered ahead of the Novembers, and Johnny is there, and there's a lot of chat about him for France 2023. He'll have turned 38 that summer, and that's the sort of question mark in people's mind. And we don't know about form and injuries, obviously, in the run into that. So there's no point in sort of getting into a huge speculation about whether he starts or not. But in terms of being involved at that age, at that stage, all good by you, or what's your thoughts on Sexton 38 World Cup?
I think that's, you know, I would look at it, the question differently. What Johnny has proven at the start of this season is that he's a serious competitor. I like his language. He said, I'm taking it game by game, and that's what you got to do at that age. If he's the best game by game, then someone's got to take it from him, and we know how much of a competitor he is. I like his mentality. That's the reality. You can build for the future, but in Test rugby, then if you're building for the future as a coach, you may not have a job. So Johnny has said that I want to play, and he's proved that he's the best at the minute. Whether that lasts for 2 years, I think none of us know, and he probably doesn't know either.
The only thing about the game-by-game bit, right, like even from an RFU point of view, in 5 or 6 months' time, they're going to have to sit down and go, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to go again here? And they'll have to make a call on that. It seems likely at this point, like he probably is going to get that centralised contract all the way.
2 years is a long time, Adrian, an awful long time in sport. It can change very, very quickly. And I think what is great at the minute for me is the fact that it's Johnny's 100 cap, and he deserves, and he's earned a massive day for his family, for himself, to because as players who have done that, it's a very prestigious, exclusive club, and he deserves to start that game for what he has done. And I think you'll see then that it'll be every game after that will be judged on those values, because it is very, very difficult to play Test rugby consistently well at that age. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And who knows? 36. You 36. You retired.
I thought it was 35, but Jess said it was 36, but I'm questioning it.
So you've been chatting at home saying, what age was I again? Jesus, I was done at 36.
Yeah, I remember playing. Yeah, I was done. Definitely, yeah. It was difficult. I played Claremont Fofana at 12, and his feet were incredibly good, and I was an old man, and I was soft and sore. It was hard. But you can do the games. It's just the training. You need a really understanding coach, you know.
Yeah. You were 36 years and 2 months old for that Claremont game, just in case it ever comes up again, Ronan.
Was he?
Always go to Eoin for the facts.
Well, I always go to me via Wikipedia. So we'll double check that.
Yeah.
Right, listen, the first of many. Good man.
See ya.
Best luck tomorrow. Thanks a million. Cheers, Ronan O'Gara on the line there. Live from La Rochelle, and it's 8:05. It's Friday morning. Plenty of comments coming into us there. JS on YouTube. Ronan's doing it the right way, learning his trade and getting better and better. He's doing very well, and someone for aspiring coaches to look up to. Coaching is exhausting. Yeah, good insight there from Ronan O'Gara. Still plenty to come. We're going to talk a lot of football between now and 10 o'clock particularly. Do keep those comments coming into us. So pack show still to come right here. We're going to be hearing in just a little bit from Shane Keegan, a debrief on Manchester United, and we'll do that after these.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Liverpool fans won't want to miss our latest Cadbury FC roadshow. We're going behind the scenes at Anfield with legendary striker Robbie Fowler.
We'll also be joined by Liverpool captain and Irish international Niamh Fahey and former Liverpool midfielder and physio Richie Partridge.
It's all with thanks to Cadbury FC and their club partnerships, granting you behind the scenes access at the Premier League's biggest clubs.
Coming soon to OTB Sports social channels.
Radio and audio in Ireland has never been more powerful, more effective, or had more opportunity for growth. And now Radio Centre Ireland is here, we're looking to accelerate. To do that, we're looking for a CEO with a focus on increasing advertising investment and championing radio's unique advantages that make it so effective, flexible and impactful. We need a candidate with the experience, credibility and vision to lead, drive, influence, shape and grow this industry. Someone who will be our voice, representing and promoting radio to commercial partners and agencies alike as a medium that delivers return on investment. If that's you, we want to hear from you, and we know we will because radio works. Apply now. Visit radiocentreireland.ie.
OTB AM
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
7 minutes past 8. Isolde Cody, good morning to you, Isolde. It's been in touch wondering why the hell Manchester United fans are not turning on the multi-million-pound players for the lack of playing for any manager. Like, it's just a fact.
I think there's a point. I think there's definitely a point in that, and I think it's probably just indicative of the culture that we thought, or maybe Manchester United fans thought they were immune from, which is the idea of turning on the manager. Like this was a really, I'm just talking about this in the past tense as if he's already out the door, but this was a really interesting experiment in how deep one's loyalty can actually run for a manager, because as we all know, it is the first thing that will leave when it comes to your loyalty for the manager. It's the easiest thing to fix. It's the first person you'll turn on. Whereas Solskjaer was a very interesting case study in how long will the United fans actually stick with this guy, because they love the guy, and that's totally understandable. And last year, when he did well for a period of time and did get the club to a place where it looked like they might contend for a challenge, there was like real adoration for the guy, and it would have been really interesting to see what a full Old Trafford would have been like during those empty stadium months. Whereas now, I think actually it's kind of proven that no matter how loyal you are to your manager, or no matter how much you love your manager, it will still be the manager you call for at the end of the day, because that is just a condition of the sports fan and the condition of the football fan. The manager will still be the guy that gets scapegoated, even though you try your best not to say, let's shoot Bambi here. Bambi's always going to get shot, and that's going to be the grim reality in a couple of days. But I'd agree with that. I think the players definitely have questions to answer as well, but I guess you can't just cancel a lot of playing contracts, whereas you can just pull out the rifle and shoot Bambi.
Is that what happens in the end, is it?
I actually have never seen Bambi, but
People always use that example. And
it's Bambi. It's Bambi's mother that gets shot at the start.
Oh, right, okay.
Spoiler. And apparently it's just
does Bambi get shot at all?
It's just a grim realisation of being an orphan for the rest of the movie, apparently, is what Bambi's all about.
Okay, so Bambi himself or herself?
Herself, isn't it? Bambi's
doesn't actually get shot.
I don't think so. I'm sure that there are poachers out there looking for Bambi, trying to kill Bambi.
Are you still doing that podcast, looking back?
No, we're not. Sue's on maternity leave. Congratulations to Sue, Team OTB. New arrival this week, by the way. Yeah.
We'll leave the Bambi chat there, but if anybody can clarify that, like the same way that you Wikipedia what Adrian and O'Gara was, if somebody could let us know.
We did credit this earlier. The Bambi thing is not an OTB analogy. It was in the Times, isn't it? So that's not our bit.
It's off used. I do think that we had our own Bambi situation, and we would like a different version of it, and definitely a more extreme version of it with Steve Staunton, where like he was beloved by the nation, but at the same time there comes a point where you just got to go, this ain't working out, and no matter how much we love you, Steve, you got to go. And I do think that like hardened United fans are there now with Solskjaer.
Yeah, and like I mean, it's an interesting one. The Staunton one didn't really feel like that there was ever any sort of period of we got to stick loyal by this guy, and we've got to put on our green tinted spectacles here in the way that maybe some Manchester United fans have had their red tinted spectacles on over the last couple of years. Maybe there's more of a ruthlessness within the Republic of Ireland fan base than there is within the Manchester United fan base.
Shane Keegan, good morning to you.
Lads, how are you getting on?
Are there legitimate comparisons there with? I mean, it's a different, very different dynamic, but the Steve Staunton comparison.
I can see the angle that you're coming from, all right. Yeah, it does make sense, all right. But yeah, it's possibly also looking like it makes sense in two managers very, very much out of their depth. I mean, look, I know that this has kind of been thrown out there before, but if any of the other top clubs in Europe, if the managerial position became available and if Solskjaer was available to go and get, would they go and get him? And sure, look, obviously we all know the answer is no, and the reason he's got the job is because of what he did at the club as a player. But to be honest with you, I'm amazed it's gone this long. When he came into the role at first, I look, like most people, I would have thought this is a strange appointment. I can't see it working, but he's had his peaks and his troughs, and he seems to just come out of a trough at the right time, just when the trigger is loaded, as has happened on a few occasions so far. But it's definitely it definitely looks like it's getting closer to the end for him at the moment, doesn't it? Yeah,
and like I think if you're a dreamer as well, right? Because I think like obviously the Atalanta game was there as if you wanted to use it as evidence of maybe this thing could work. And then everybody was going into the Liverpool game, and I know we were talking about it last week, and it was like a case of, if United turn up, the possibilities were United edge a win, Liverpool edge a win, or Liverpool thump them. They were the possibilities, and people were willing to engage in the conversation that United might actually get something out of the game. But it may be, Shane, a case that the owners particularly, or the chief executives at the club, are looking at it going, let's be absolutely sure, are we sure yet? And I mean, the evidence of last weekend, everybody's surely certain now that this is the end.
Yeah, and look, I think the reality of the situation, like you have to look at, how do these things actually play out? And the reality of the situation is no club, any decent club really, but certainly no club the size of Manchester United should be making any decisions without having what's next fully planned out in the background and ready to rock. And that has to be going on at the moment. You would imagine that surely has to be going on at the moment, that certain people are being weighed up and they're trying to find out what, be it, Conte or whoever, the various different names that have been linked with it. Are they interested? Are they gettable? What's the financial package that's going to be required to get them? What's the financial package that's required for Solskjaer to leave his role? You would think all of that stuff is going on in the background at the moment. And I would think it's the sort of thing that probably doesn't take any more longer than a week or two. If they are talking to Conte, could two good results in those two games save his job? Possibly. But we may be talking about a decision that's already made and we're just waiting for the timing and stuff to play out. It's interesting this weekend, lads, because, I'm a Spurs fan. You've got two clubs who are far from setting the world alight really at the moment. So you have, and it's actually amazing when you look at the league table. You expect to see the two of them a bit further down the table, to be honest with you. They've been so poor and there's so much doom and gloom around them that you expect to see them almost in the bottom half. But I suppose because there's so much kind of teams beating each other at the moment, they're actually, neither of them are a million miles off. And I'll tell you what, the worrying thing again for Solskjaer is, you look at it and you go, okay, well, where are United at the moment? United are in a very, very similar position to where Chelsea were when Chelsea pulled the trigger on Lampard last year. And we all know how that played out.
And also, as you mentioned, the expectation that they would be lower down the table, it almost incentivises Manchester United to act now, because the season has not been a disaster. If you look at the Premier League table, there's still very much a couple of wins and they're back into the top four. Just on Conte, Shane, having done a good bit of analysis on the team and the players and their setup last weekend, what sort of a job would Conte do with this group of players at his disposal in the short term?
Yeah, I'd be really, really interested to see it, because the first thing, again, is what, as I keep calling, kind of the unsolvable headache, which is Pogba and Ronaldo. And I don't know, like with any team and with any player, you're trying to come up with a system that no system is or no set of players are perfect, but you're trying to come up with a system that accentuates the positives and tries to limit the negatives. To be fair to Solskjaer and whoever comes in, I'm struggling to figure out how you go about setting this group of players up to get the most out of them, because when Pogba's in the middle of the field and Ronaldo is up front, they look so open. Obviously, we've done the bits on, you've done bits and I've done bits on the lack of pressing and just how poor the press is, and then the massive holes in the middle of the field. Like it said, that Rory Tielemans, it was just ridiculous how much Tielemans flourished the weekend before for Leicester when he came up against Pogba. And so what do? You drop the two of them? Well, I mean, we saw when Pogba got dropped against Atalanta, and you were back to McTominay and Fred as your centre mid pair, and that just looked so pedestrian, so slow, so lacking in creativity. It really is a serious headache to try and come up with a system. I know he very briefly. Well, not very briefly. He gave it maybe 45 minutes. No, sorry. Pogba got sent off after about 15 minutes, didn't he? He started the second half at the weekend with a diamond, which was something that he tried before. And maybe that's the way to go. Is that a system worth having a look at that might get the most out of those two players? But look, Conte will come in. If Conte came in, he would come in and he'd certainly wave a big stick. I think that's his approach. But I mean, again, how are those two players going to react to somebody coming in and barking at them?
Can I ask you one more on Solskjaer, just as separately from United almost, and about your analysis piece on the 42 this week, Shane, the flaws of their lack of effective pressing, how easy it was to bypass that United midfield, and the lack of effort, I suppose, at its most basic level from some of the Manchester United players. Like, surely Solskjaer and Kieran McKenna and Carrick are looking at, like, they're not naive enough to know that that's not happening. So why does it happen?
Well, first, I think I'd say on it, Adrian, is it's it's almost not a lack of effort. It's fake effort. It's this, if I tear in on top of that fullback and the crowd can see me tearing in on top of the fullback, well, they'll think I'm trying and they'll cheer me on. And it ends up, that's completely the opposite to what they want. It wasn't so much that they weren't pressing the other day, it was that they were pressing at the completely wrong times. They were pressing in ones and twos. They were pressing with Mason Greenwood in particular, pressing at completely the wrong angle. Running in on top of a player when their out ball was just so simple, where actually shuttling across the line a little bit and now approaching them a little bit slower while cutting off the angle, as Firmino was continuously doing for Liverpool, which was highlighting it all the more. Was the major problem. In terms of how do you fix it on the training ground, again, I don't know how you can with your starting point being Ronaldo, because as people are people, and it doesn't matter what level you operate at. If you've got a fella in your side who wants to do his own thing and is going to do his own thing, nobody at this stage of his career is going to get Ronaldo doing something that Ronaldo doesn't want to do.
Just
and that's what I'm saying.
On that, Shane, just like if I'm Solskjaer reading your piece, right, and I'm like, yeah, Shane, I know, I can see that. But do you know what I mean? Like, what's
exactly
the but for him in that conversation when he's sitting down with his bosses?
The but is I've tried to get him to do that. I've told him that's what I want him to do, and maybe on the training ground he is making a bit of a burst at it. And look, I suppose the other thing as well is, quite often how the game is going will very, very much affect Ronaldo's application and work rate. And the more the game got away, the more Ronaldo downs tools. If United had got off to a good start, I know it might seem small margins, but if United had a brilliant chance after 2 minutes, really, really fantastic chance at the start of that game after 2 minutes. If United score that game or score that goal, all of a sudden Ronaldo's chest is out a little bit, Pogba's chest is out a little bit, and now maybe they do want to hassle and harry a little bit more. Maybe they do want to work a little bit harder. But you're not going to get it on a consistent basis from them. Absolutely not.
Is that then a new departure from Cristiano Ronaldo's perspective, Shane? This sort of downing tools, we're losing, we're getting hammered here, there's no way back. Like, I mean, we've all seen in Ireland just how well able he is to drag his team back into a game, and he doesn't get to where he is in the all-time standings of goal scorers and greatness, genuine greatness, by being somebody who downs tools after being a few goals behind. Is this one of the first times you've seen him act like that and show that sort of attitude?
I think previously he's found himself in setups where the rest of the collective were willing to put in the work rate that allowed him to just kind of hang around and do his thing. I'm not sure if that hunger is there for everybody to cover for him, and I'm not sure if they're at this moment in time well enough organised or well enough set up. I mean, it's hard to play without the ball with effectively 9 players, but really, really good teams can do it. I'm trying to put myself in his shoes again. Back during my period, say when I was with Wexford, we had a guy at Wexford who scored 30 goals in 27 games in the season that we won the first division. All right, absolutely phenomenal return. But I don't think he'd even mind me saying he wouldn't have been the hardest working guy in the world now. He really, really wouldn't, but a phenomenal finisher. But the rest of the team, particularly his kind of strike partner, the closest guy to him, they were kind of saying, well, listen, you're doing your job. We'll cover for you. We'll do the rest back here, and we'll work our socks off, and we'll try and set ourselves up in a way that just allows you to stay there and let us worry about getting the ball to you. And look, we're talking about infinitely different levels between what I'm talking about there and the level that they're at. But at various different degrees, that can be done if everybody else buys into it. And obviously it requires that star man continuously producing. Because for me, he never went 2 games in a row without scoring a goal. Nobody ever questioned whether it was worth sacrificing themselves for this. It seemed to always be worth sacrificing yourself for this system to work. What United maybe need a run, lads, of 3-4 wins in a row where Ronaldo does nothing but continuously scores the winner for them. And then everybody else says, you know what? Okay, let's do this. Everybody else sacrificed their game. And we set up in a system that just gets the most out of him, which then gets the most out of us. But there's 2 or 3 individuals within that side. To be fair to them, the likes of Bruno Fernandes, you can definitely understand. Hold on, I've been phenomenal for United here since I arrived. Why the hell am I going to sacrifice my game here? And you can definitely be sure Pogba's thinking that way.
That's very interesting. And I wonder then, is there not so much a counterpoint to that, but maybe another reason on top of that as well, where there's maybe a little bit of social loafing going on within the United dressing room? Like the Leonardo Bonucci comments in The Athletic have been regurgitated on the BBC this morning, actually. And for anybody who missed this, he was speaking about playing with Ronaldo at Juventus. He said maybe it was taken for granted that if we gave the ball to Cristiano Ronaldo, he'd win us the game. But Cristiano needed the team as much as we needed him. There had to be a trade-off because it's the team that lifts the individual, even if the individual is the best player on the planet. So does that come into things a little bit, like borderline complacency there, Sheahan?
Yeah, you would think so. Again, Ronaldo, if the team were willing to sacrifice for him, he has to be absolutely effusive in his praise of his teammates. And that is something that I have seen, particularly with Portugal. He does tend to be quite good at making sure that the water carriers, for want of a better way of describing them, do feel appreciated. You'd wonder how that dynamic works in the dressing room. Again, just to stay on the same point that I was trying to make, I would have continuously trying to be saying to Danny Furlong, Danny, that you need to let everybody know how much you appreciate the effort and the work that's been put in here. And, maybe if Ronaldo was continuously coming out after it and saying, I only scored because of this, I only scored because of that, that will work with certain personality types. Again, is it going to work with Pogba? Pogba doesn't need Ronaldo blowing up his ego. Pogba's ego is big enough without it, kind of a thing, Well,
one other question I have, Sheahan, is it possible to win any trophy of significance in modern football without having a good pressing game? Is it possible to just sit back and change your approach without the ball?
Well, you see, again, pressing, people automatically jump to the assumption when you talk about pressing that pressing has to happen from the front. And it absolutely doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. So long as everybody knows what the triggers are and where the press is going to happen. So you say, is it possible to win a trophy? I know we're going back a couple of seasons now, but it's not that far back. I mean, Leicester were kings of it. Leicester were the absolute kings of it. Let's be reasonably docile here in the first third of the field. Second third of the field, okay, we'll start to create the picture that we want. We'll start to send them in the direction that we want to send them. Now, by the time they're coming into the final third, like, it might, that's a completely different kind of press, but it was tremendously effective. And what it meant now was that you were left with maybe 2v2 in the other half of the field, or Mahrez kind of in a half and half role. So you can, but it is still a press. But you don't have to be Liverpool. You don't have to be doing it the way that Liverpool are doing it. As I said, they give it an absolute exhibition in a high tempo pressing from the front. But you can go about it in different ways. And I suppose, again, lads, that's the one point I didn't raise there is what triggered this change in approach from United the other day? Because to be fair to Solskjaer, the Leicester approach seemed to be an approach that they were reasonably good at, where they didn't overly press, didn't try and press in the attacking half of the field, let the opposition come onto them and counter-attacked. And that seemed to be his big game approach and was working reasonably well, definitely a hell of a lot better than the new approach that they took the other day. Maybe is it coming from we're at home and the fans are on my back and they have to see us being proactive?
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense, because like that Manchester City game earlier in the was it New Year's Day? It really comes to mind when Anthony Martial turned into the Hulk. Like, it was just incredible. And I think that's probably, like, there's been a lot of people eating humble pie supposedly after the game, predicting that United might have done something in the game. But that was based on a decent amount of evidence where, as you say, they had this counter-attacking game where they could cause teams like Liverpool problems, which makes the whole thing even more extraordinary.
Yeah. As I say, it was there was no way you could have predicted that was the approach that United were going to take the other day. Any of the kind of your Michael Coxes or your tactical gurus of the world who would have been looking at how are United going to go about this, there is no way they would have predicted that they would have come into it. So you'd like to know, right, what, I'm sure Solskjaer will brings his management team into an office. It's the build up to a game. First day of the new week, right, lads? What way are we going to go about this? That'll then set the agenda for what they're going to work on the training ground over the course of the week. You'd love to hear the audio of how that conversation went. And was it Solskjaer's idea? Was it Mike Phelan's idea? Was it McKenna's idea? Who thought that this was a good idea to send out fellas who are reluctant to press in the case of a few? To be fair to Mason Greenwood, because earlier in the season I actually one of Ronaldo's first games, I think it might have been his very first game against Newcastle, I watched Mason Greenwood and his effort and work rate was excellent, and he actually reminded me that day of a bit like the way Wayne Rooney used to cover for Ronaldo. He was kind of getting across and pressing in the central area for Ronaldo and was still sprinting out the wing. So I feel he does have the want and the willingness. It's just his decision making is horrendous as to when to go and the angles to go at. But going back to that conversation in that Solskjaer's office that day, how they thought that this was the right approach to take was a really, really strange one for me.
We've kept you away over time, but just before we let you off, so this weekend they open up against Spurs. They show great width and desire and accurate pressing. Sancho comes into the team. What happens, Sheahan? Is it what's going to happen this weekend? It's El Sacco, I think everybody's calling it. So who's getting sacked?
Yeah. Look, I think, to be fair, as I say, as a Spurs supporter, I think it's a good game for United. I do think it's a good game for United. Spurs have looked very, very poor, particularly going forward. I saw a table the other day, I think Spurs are third last for clear-cut chances created this season, which is probably exactly what United need right now is somebody that isn't going to really, really test them from that perspective. I think it'll be a really cagey one. I find it hard to believe that this will be a high-scoring one. Both managers, because of the situations they're in, are likely to take cautious approaches, I would have thought. I think the big one for Spurs, obviously, is going to be Harry Kane. He has shown signs of coming back to some sort of decent form. If he was to click at the weekend, that would be the worst timing possible for United, and it's very possible that could well happen. And if he does click, I think Spurs possibly could win the game all right. But I'm just interested to see every week at the moment, lads. I'm opening an app on my phone at 2:00, just having a look to see what way are United going about this. Because for all the criticism, to be fair to him, if I was in his shoes, I have no idea what way I'd go about it at the moment either.
Yeah, he might be in the same boat himself. Thanks a million, Shane. Enjoy
Cheers,
football
lads.
over the weekend. Thanks a lot, Shane Keegan there. Looking back on Manchester United, plenty of comments coming in as well. Ole, the most successful manager since some guy called Fergie, says John O'Brien. Good morning to you, John. Gerard Fitzpatrick, and there's a fair bit of this going around. Ole should get another 5 years minimum. You'll never walk alone. And then another commenter here saying that United should get rid of Pogba. He's bang average footballer with the odd good moment. He said, "This is not match of the day. Let's call a spade a spade." He said he's lumped a lot of the players in together that I wouldn't necessarily put all in the same group. Cavani, Ronaldo, Pogba, Dalot, Lindelof, Shaw, McFred, Martial, all-time wasters. Shaw and Cavani feels like it's slightly harsh to have the two of them in there.
Yeah, picking Lindelof out as well. Obviously he's been bad at times, but is he in worse form than Harry Maguire? I know form is a strange one considering he hasn't been playing as much especially when Varane was fit, but I see Daniel Harris in The Guardian this morning suggesting that Solskjaer should go with Lindelof and Varane at the weekend and drop captain El Capitano Harry Maguire.
Felt that for a while. Maguire.
It'd be interesting to see if he did it. See if it's your one way of it's your one test of finding out. Was Lindelof the problem all along?
There is no chance. That's him accepting he's done. I think he'll view that as a bit of a nuclear option. He could have done it actually months ago.
Well, now
it's like,
I'm not sure. Like I think at the start of the season he needed to play Varane and Maguire. That was clearly on paper going to be your best option, but it went a little bit beyond paper last week. Harry Maguire's performance, I think. And since he's come back from that injury, he seems to be even worse. It'd be interesting to see. Like, it's just it's just too big to be experimenting, as you say at this point. I would like to see a test. See Varane and Lindelof against Liverpool last week, and then try Maguire and Varane and see who's actually in the worst form, who's actually the worst.
Who's the worst?
Who is the worst centre back?
Who's our worst
Now, in
player
fairness,
here?
Maguire is possibly still recovering from an injury, and I would still suggest Maguire is better than Lindelof, but it doesn't exactly say much.
Bonnie Hammer says, some United fans say that we gave Fergie time, so we need to give Ollie time. Fergie was a proven winner, breaking up the old firm domination of Scottish football. Ollie has nothing on his CV to give hope. And nothing on the pitch either, I think it seems, by all recent evidence at least. Anyway, that's where we leave the football for the minute. We have loads more to come on that front, so do stay tuned. And do keep your comments coming into us as well. Going to get into Liverpool in just a few minutes' time, so stay tuned for all of that in a few minutes. And later again, by the way, it's a live crappy quiz. It's myself versus Ger versus Will. And Eoin is back in studio and he's written an absolute belter, he assures us. So we'll see exactly what happens. Have you written belter? Is the old new round back in again?
It is, yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Has it been tweaked, or is it just the same old stupid format?
The Pass the Parcel of Doom, as you know it's called, it's back.
Wow. Let's tell you what's happening across the back pages and indeed on otbsports.com for you this morning. That was Guillaume Balaguer, who's on with Richie last night. You can check out that full piece up on the website there. Is Xavi the only manager that everyone agrees Barcelona deserves? And another manager who the jury's out about, from certainly from a CV point of view, but that was Guillaume Balaguer in conversation with Richie on the show last night. Stephen Bradley says excitement is building as Rovers look to win the league. This is win the league in front of home fans, from Amory Donlan there up on the website as well. Obviously ahead of a busy weekend, the League of Ireland action as well, plenty more as well up there, but Solskjaer and lots more besides. That's on OTBSports.com this morning. Some of the newspapers we mentioned, the Sun a little bit earlier on, they've got Cristiano Ronaldo's social media feed there. Hard work will Chris it better. Hard work will Chris it better.
Yeah, it will.
What's the
hard work will kiss it better?
Is that an expression?
I mean, no, but that's what they're trying to say.
That's that. Wayne slams lazy stars, shirkers. Too many United players are not pulling their weight, and that's unacceptable, he says there.
Obviously not Euron, though, they say. He's not a shirker. He's
obviously
been
not
posting to
Euron.
Instagram.
Their cheeky little sort of post comment.
Mm-hmm.
The Examiner, prized possession, Hungary motivated. Sexton remains key to Farrell's Ireland plans. And it's Johnny Sexton and Ronan O'Gara on the front page of the Examiner for you this morning. Ronan O'Gara's thoughts. Pretty interesting stuff, it has to be said, on the inside there about his time over the first few weeks of the season in France. And we had his thoughts earlier on as well. If you want to watch that in full, it'll be available up on our YouTube channel. And while you're there, you might as well hit subscribe, because it'll mean that we'll be able to hit you up on all the best stuff as it happens. The Irish Independent this morning, 2 titles, but little love. Where's the acclaim for Rovers? Right, Stan McDonald inside here. Farrell, Rugby in safe hands when it comes to head injuries. This was the point brought up by Kellen Doris earlier in the week, that he had sat it out for a few weeks due to a head knock. United prepared to let Pogba go on a free transfer. Jason Burt writes here, I thought this was pretty interesting actually on inside. The comments here from Jason Burt, and he's saying that in reference to Pogba's representative Mina Raiola, this Manchester United source that they have, United were always aware that when they entered into the deal that some agents like free transfers, and we were always open-eyed about that. It'd be really indicative of the business that United are going about at the minute if they were to let this guy see out his contract to the end of the season and then he leaves on a free. It's, the alternative is the sham of him signing up for a new 4-year contract just so they can charge PSG a whack of cash at the end of the year.
Yeah, that it's what's a riskier move? You're Manchester United is the question there, and it's probably a riskier move to probably give him a new contract. If the jury has now returned and everybody is now in agreement that Pogba is definitely out, it did feel for a while that this was still an open-ended debate. At times last season, it definitely felt like it was Pogba should stay and they should try and offer him a new contract, but that seems to have gone the entire other way at this point.
Yeah, the new manager comes in, puts the arm around. We've never seen this before, have we? And he's a new guy, and then before you know it, at the end of days, I can't trust that guy. He's not in the team. We'll see. The Irish Daily Mail, Sexton safe. Captain's age is not a deciding factor for Andy Farrell. Writes Rory Keane there. Rooney puts the boot into United's flops. That's just more on that story from Wayne. Those comes from Wayne Rooney there. The Irish Times. Rugby all the way here on their sports front page today. Farrell confident that Ireland will be up to speed for tough clashes. That's ahead of those November internationals. And also John Tracy is retiring as Sport Ireland Chief Executive at the end of the year. It's one of those stories that people tend to sort of glaze over about in terms of sports administration, but it's obviously a very, very important role in Irish sport, and it'll be interesting to see. The job ad is up as of this morning, exactly which way that goes. The Irish Daily Star, agony rant, Rooney sees red at current crop, and this is also the story from Paul Brown over here on the left hand side, that West Ham are in advanced talks with a new potential owner, and that's been the story that's been rumbling on for the last few days. The Murru are a joke. Legend Rooney blasts Workshaw United stars who hung Ollie out to dry, and billionaire in talks to buy Hammers. I'd say Rooney's do you think he's waking up this morning going, why did I say that? Or is he yeah, take that,
give me the job, is what he's saying this morning, Wayne Rooney.
That's you just tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got as good a CV as Solskjaer had.
It's true. It's true. It is interesting when Sheahan was talking earlier on about how the team might look under Conte. It does seem that we've kind of distilled this whole argument down to what they would look like with Conte and what they would look like with Solskjaer still at the wheel. And it doesn't seem that there's a whole other pile of other opportunities coming for United in the near future anyway. So I don't know, maybe they do go for a Ten Hag or something like that, but it does seem that that's a much riskier move at this point than somebody who's managing the Premier League and who's got a better track record of winning trophies.
Give it Wayne till the end of the season on.
That would be those guys that he's already thrown under the bus or had a go at in the press. See how they get on with Wayne Rooney. That would be absolute box office. There's your number 9. Drop Ronaldo. Wayne Rooney plays himself.
Yeah,
could probably still do a job on the pressing stakes.
I'm all in on that, I have to say.
Yeah, well, there you go. You've just about to say that you have heard it here first. Wayne Rooney till the end of the season. I can't believe
nobody's been talking about it.
Yeah. No, I know. But one day he'll be there. One day he'll be back. The thing is, obviously, the training matches will be intense, to say at least. Jason Knight would tell you all about that.
Well, Jason Knight would suddenly be winging his way up to Old Trafford, I'm assuming.
Oh, could do with a bit of that in midfield. Would Jason Knight be better than McTominay or Fred?
Probably just as good, I'd say. Just as good. Is that my way of dodging the answer to that question? Coming up on 20 to 9, John Duggan standing by to let you know what's happening in the world of live sport in just a couple of moments' time. But before all of that, Gillette have partnered with Movember again to encourage men to talk men's health and to support men as they shave down and embrace a Mo. Movember is the leading men's charity, changing the face of men's health on a global scale, focusing on mental health and suicide prevention, prostate cancer and testicular cancer as well. Gillette are proud sponsors of Movember. Gentlemen, it's your moment. And to kick us into Movember, Tommy has been out for a shave down. This is really well worth your time. I don't know if the full piece, it'll be close to being up on YouTube. It's full piece up on YouTube. There it is. Go and check it out at some point over the course of the day. It's a really brilliant chat with Colin McShane and Matty Rowan, All Ireland opponents, of course. Here's a taste of that chat.
When it comes to Movember, lads, you're both doing a bit of work from this month. It's incredibly important work in terms of mental health and men's mental health and working in that area. Carl, when they reached out to you, why did you get on board?
I have obviously followed it the last number of years. You always see it. It's always coming through the social media pages and different things, but there's obviously a great cause behind it. Some men suffer in silence, and it's really important that there is a lot of help out there, and that us men, we make use of it. There's lots of different, obviously Movember, just looking at their website this week and stuff, there's so many, so much help on there that people can make use of. So again, it's just that we don't want to stay quiet in situations. We don't want to suffer in silence. We want to speak out and get help, and I think that's the most important thing. It is okay not to feel okay at times, and we all go through periods maybe where we're feeling down, but I guess if we make use of that help, we drive the thing on, then we can have better days ahead, and it's just great, and I'm proud to be part of Movember.
Yeah, Colin McShane and Matty Rowan in conversation with Tommy Rooney there. The full piece is up on our YouTube page right now. It is absolutely worth your time, worth checking out. The lads going to shave down and having a good chat about the last couple of months in their lives. John Duggan, good morning to you.
Owen, how you doing?
We're going to chat a little bit about Spurs, Manchester United in just a moment, but before that, you've got the latest.
Yeah, well, Shamrock Rovers can win the League of Ireland Premier Division title tonight if they beat Finn Harps at Tallaght Stadium. They're going to win it. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because they're far clear of St Pat's at the top of the table. But the coronation could happen tonight if they beat a club down the other end of the table. It'll be back-to-back titles for Shamrock Rovers. Remember, they lost Jack Byrne and Aaron McAniff in the last while, and they've been very consistent this season, and they're going to win back-to-back. And for the first time in 10 years, 2011 was the last time the Hoops did it. Done a great job, Stephen Bradley, and Europe was a little bit disappointing. They're not in the Cup final, but a lot to build on there for next year for Shamrock Rovers. At the other end, a really interesting game is Dundalk against Waterford. Both clubs looking to avoid this relegation playoff. Some fall for Dundalk this season. St Pat's and Bohs, who are also in action this evening. Pat's going to Longford and Bohs away to Derry, remember, are in the Cup final in a few weeks' time. But Shamrock Rovers look set to clinch back-to-back League of Ireland titles in the Premier Division tonight. Seamus Power doing well at the Bermuda Championship, 4 under par. It was blowing a gale there yesterday, and he played well towards the end of the day. The Waterford native, he's in a tie for 4th. Behind the leaders, Chad Ramey and Brandon Hagee. Play was suspended due to darkness. Graham McDowell also started under par with a 1 under round of 70. Padraig Harrington has designed or helped to a 3,000 square metre putting course at Marley Park in Dublin, based on the Himalayas in St Andrews. So this is going to open next spring, free to the public. Going to be a bit tricky, apparently, a few ups and downs and hollows and swales, but it'll be entertaining for people who want to take it the putter and have a go at Marley Park. Horse racing wise, we're really into the jumps now. This is the first big weekend of the season. Dan Royal hosting action today and tomorrow. The Gold Cup winner at Cheltenham, Minella Indo, will appear in the Champion Chase at Dan Royal tomorrow. Rachel Blackmore will ride. She will also ride Envo Allen, both horses trained in Waterford by Henry de Bromhead. Gavin Cromwell's Vanillier is making his debut over events, as he was a winner at Cheltenham as well back in March. So lots of good Irish horses to look forward to starting this weekend and then for the next 6 to 7 months.
Tottenham against United this weekend, John, as well. We've just spent most of the last time talking about United, so give us the Spurs side of this. Are you having the El Sacco aspect to it?
I'm having the El Resindo feeling as a fan.
Right.
When you're playing Palace and West Ham and Chelsea and Arsenal and losing your matches to London clubs, that suggests to me that there's a little bit of a lack of fight in the setup. They've won all the other games, so they're still quite high up in the table. I believe they're 6th in the table at the moment. So it's a strange start to the season. But Nuno is kind of seen as Mourinho light. I quite like Nuno. I think he did a really good job at Wolves, but as Miguel was pointing out yesterday on the show, that Tottenham haven't replenished their squad enough, I don't think, and there's a lot of dead wood there. And just culturally, I think a lot of the spark was there when Pochettino was there, and they haven't replaced it with a new vibe, new players. Now, you brought like Romero and Heel in, but it's going to take a while for them to bed in London. So Harry Kane was obviously this frustration there. And just a lack of oomph in the team. I watched the Villa game. I was over there a few weeks ago. Yeah. They didn't play too bad. But like you see the decline of careers like Dele Alli and Harry Winks and Davinson Sanchez. I could expect Ali to be sold in January. So it might be a good time for Solskjaer's United to be facing Spurs.
It has a bit of the attraction that the United-Liverpool game had last weekend when United were 3-0 down and you sort of couldn't leave the couch because this was unmissable, because United were going to get thumped. Like it doesn't have the appeal that it used to have, in that like these are two heavyweights slogging it out, you know, two teams at the peak of their powers. It has more of a bit of sort of car crash about it, doesn't it?
It does have car crash about it. I think there will be goals. It's funny, I went to see Spurs United in 2007. Ronaldo was playing, and one thing I remember, I won't say how, but I got into the director's box, and I was sitting behind Ferguson and Sugar. So it was one of those weird life moments that I just ended up there. And John O'Shea ended up in goal for United because Edwin van der Sar broke his nose. The one thing I remember about that day, because obviously you've got the best seat in the house, and as a young lad who could never get a ticket to a game, I was pinching myself. I probably still am 14 years later. But United had such a system. They had Ferdinand and Vidic, they had Everett and Neville, they had Van der Sar, they played 4-4-2, they had Giggs and Ronaldo on the wings, Carrick and Scholes in midfield, and then Rooney and Larsson up front. And it was a complete dismantling of Tottenham by a unit at the peak of their powers. The following year they win the European Cup, the Champions League, and at the moment you don't know what you're going to see from Man United. And that's the one thing when I'm comparing then and now, that they had a style of play. Liverpool have a style of play, Man City have a style of play, Brighton have a style of play, Man United don't have a style of play, in my opinion. And the style of play that they were using in the last couple of seasons, the counter-attack, is not as effective now because Ronaldo's a passenger in the team.
It's interesting. You would pay the admission fee to see these players, but not these teams. It's like Ocean's 12 or something, where the cast is amazing, but the product is terrible.
I've never seen any of those Ocean's films.
Ocean's 11 is good.
Right.
Ocean's 12, the cast is stellar, but the movie is terrible. And I guess Manchester United, you would pay to watch Cristiano Ronaldo. Therein ends the list. Now you pay to see Mason Greenwood. You would pay to see at least one or two other players. You would pay to see Harry Kane and Heung-min Son, but you know that they're not going to be very good at the end of the day, and you know that they're both, if they stick with their managers, going to have relatively mediocre seasons. I guess the thing is, though, when you look at the table, John, that you look from a Tottenham perspective, you're thinking to yourself, a couple of wins were right in contention for a Champions League spot. That's the strangeness about the season already.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be anywhere near it at the end, though. I think Arsenal are doing much better than Tottenham at the moment. I can see a shape to Arsenal and a bit of verve, and like players like Saka and Smith Rowe would excite me. And I don't see enough of a link at times between this Tottenham defence and their attack. I would still question Eric Dyer. I think Romero is a good signing, and Ndombele is too inconsistent for me. So that link between defence and attack, and Harry Kane has not been at his best, and has been playing too deep for my reckoning. Tottenham were defined in the Pochettino era by a hugely relentless, energetic pressing style, and they don't have that anymore. And what we have now is a bit of a mishmash. As you say, Owen, a lot of individual players. But this is a fixture that haunted me for years. In the Fergie era, Spurs went 11 years without winning. We all know the lads, it's Tottenham refrain. We routinely go to Old Trafford. We didn't win between 1989 and 2012 at Old Trafford as a club, so it was always a fixture we just get pasted. 20 years ago this year, it was 3-0 up at half-time against United and lost 5-3. So it was always a fixture that I would fear and always felt that we'd come out the second side of. But now, I don't know what we're going to see. United, the whole story about Solskjaer at United has been 9 lives. He's always on the 8th life as a cat. And there's always a reprieve and tomorrow could be the reprieve. They could win 2-3-0. They could just click because they got such individual talent. The interesting thing, I suppose, in the last few weeks is that having started the season so well before Ronaldo came in, I think the train has departed when it comes to Paul Pogba. I actually do believe now he is going, and that'll be the end of it.
The reprieve thing is interesting because I actually don't think that anybody should buy in too much. No matter what happens at the weekend, if either one of them wins 2 or 3-0, I don't think it hugely, because of both at such a low ebb, it shouldn't hugely sway anybody's thinking about the future of either manager, for example, or the future for any of the players that we're talking about. Like, Pogba probably gets left out again, who knows, but he might, let's say he starts and he has a worldie. Like, I don't think people should be suddenly saying, because of the quality of opposition that they're playing, nobody should get too carried away by the outcome or performances or any of it, to be honest with you. That's really my point about the lack of quality with them. Now, 2007, JD, did you say you were sat behind Ferguson?
And Sugar, yeah. Ferguson came up for the second half. He was in the dugout in the first half. He came up. Some of the managers used to do that. George Graham used to do it. Came up to the director's box in the second half.
What was it like to be? I remember being sat. It's a slightly different standard of coach, but I remember being sat near David Knox, right beside David Knox, the former Leinster assistant coach, during the Toulouse game. Actually, for a few games, but during the famous Toulouse game in the 2000s down there, and it was like a wild ride of an experience. What was being sat around Fergie in the middle of a game like?
Well, you're just looking at him all the time, and he wasn't gesticulating that much because he didn't need to, because United were absolutely steamrolling Tottenham in the game. But it's just, I suppose, to be around someone like that. You might go to a press conference and see somebody like that, but I went to see Spurs first in 1988 against Portsmouth when they had the old terraces with the cages and everything like that. So to whatever fall into that position that I got into was, I'd be pinching myself, because I remember, like, we all grow up, and sometimes when you grow up you don't have any connections. I didn't have any connections to Ireland games, for example. In the Jack Charlton era, I could never get to a game. So you would be pinching yourself. So because the product was so bad from Tottenham after a bright spell at the start of the game, I was just more looking at Sugar and Ferguson to see what they were doing, you know.
When you say fall into a position, JD,
I can't really say how I got there, because if I said how I got there, I don't know if it'll come back to bite me.
14 years later.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a funny story, but it's probably not for broadcast how I got in there. I just told the person I was beside me, can't celebrate if Spurs score. But that was never in any danger of happening. Funny, the first ever game I saw for a Spurs United game was in 1990, just before the World Cup. Paul Gascoigne ran the show.
Right.
Absolutely ran the whole thing. This is before he burst onto the world scene in Italia 90, but you had Gascoigne, Lineker, and Steve Bruce actually scored a penalty for United that day. So it's funny the memories, and I've been to see Spurs lose at Old Trafford as well. It's funny when you look at a game, or you think of a game, if it's Liverpool Man City, or Liverpool Chelsea, or Liverpool Arsenal, or Arsenal Man United, what your memories are of each game and how it fits into where you were in your life. Like Owen, I'm sure, do you even remember 1999, the FA Cup semi-final? The Giggs game?
No. My first memory is the Community Shield, Charity Shield that year. I was at Wembley for that, for Arsenal against Manchester United, but that was my first.
You were there in a buggy, were you?
I was, I wasn't. I was sitting down on a seat.
What age were you?
I was like 5. I was going to ask John, have you ever got caught in an away section or in a home section when you were the away fan, or vice versa, and had to celebrate?
That is a good question. I have to think about that.
Go on, you're obviously...
No, it's just because he mentioned the situation about being a Spurs fan of the United side of things. I'd love to know. It was in
the director's box, so you could be jumping around. I would have been thrown out.
I got a very angry elderly woman who was supporting Reading had a right pop off me in Wembley one time, because myself and my dad were the only 2 Arsenal fans in the Reading section. It was recently enough in Wembley. It was FA Cup semi-final, or was it a semi-final, because it was Wembley, and Arsenal got 1-0 up, and then Reading equalised, and she'd obviously got intel that we were Arsenal fans. She came up behind us, 2 fingers up and all that sort of stuff. She was like, F you. Get the F out of here.
And were you all up at her grill?
No, I was like, you know what, fair game. But Alexis Sanchez scored the winner late on in extra time, and we survived.
No, I've never been to, say, Arsenal away or anything like that. It's a good question. And I don't know if you've been, Adrian, into any hostile environment.
Last weekend,
he was at the Munster game once.
Very hostile. I was actually at the Munster Maori All Blacks game in the middle of a load of Munster fans. But last weekend I was in a very hostile atmosphere as a Leinster fan. I was in the middle of the Connacht and Ulster supporters. I didn't know which way to turn.
The thing is, like, I guess your relationship with Munster only goes one way. You despise Munster, but I think Munster people, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, John, are magnanimous enough to say, you know what, we're okay with you, Adrian, and they're a forgiving bunch of people, whereas Adrian's just a nasty man.
You despise Munster, Adrian.
Yeah, he does. He's just a nasty man.
Take anything that lad has to say with a pinch of salt. But you can't be seriously suggesting that Munster fans don't do anything other than have a deep ingrained hatred of Leinster supporters.
They support their team, and I
know Munster people who are fairly good Munster supporters, but more than that, they hate Leinster more than their love of Munster.
I don't think that's right. I think that you're talking nonsense, to be honest, and that's true. But no, I think that'd be a good experiment. Get the boy out of Connacht/Leinster, bring him down to Thomond Park, see how he gets on when he starts spewing his nonsense about Munster and his hatred.
I don't spew any nonsense. I just get asked about it. By the way, we should James Carew here on YouTube saying a White Hart Lane with Shamrock Rovers went 1-0 up, surrounded by home fans, but all around the stadium, Irish people were going crazy.
That was a great moment for Shamrock Rovers. Yeah, it was a great moment. It is funny being an away fan. I was at Wolves. Once again, I was in the main stand. I wasn't in the away area, but you're designated a pub beside the railway station. This is the pub you go into, and you're not. And it's like one of these Holiday Inn pubs. You don't go anywhere else. You just stay in the pub, and that's where all the Spurs fans congregated. Yeah. And then you go up to the ground together. And that was interesting about the Liverpool Man United game last weekend, is that I remember having been to Liverpool United games, Old Trafford. There'd be a car park with a pen effectively, where all the buses would go in, and then all the fans are then escorted to the area where they go and they cheer and they stay for the rest of the game. So the away day experience is great fun. Probably more fun than the home experience at times, but I've never been in an Ibrox style situation where you're a Celtic fan, for example, at Ibrox away, which I'd say is one of the things to taste in life.
Owen and that old lady going having sort of celebrity deathmatch over there would put, I'm sure, a game like that you would not want to be. That would be an actual threat to your existence.
Wouldn't want to experience that. But I mean, if you've done Old Firm on the other side, you haven't seen anything unless you've done Arsenal versus Reading.
JD, thanks for folks. Enjoy the game at the weekend. A few more comments coming in here. Philip Nolan, United board were caught off guard with the 5-0. They have no plan B in place. They were so into Ole that even if when he's finished, even if he wins against Spurs, he's done. And we've more comments as well. We'll come back to those in just a little bit, but we are going to talk Liverpool in just a few moments time. Before all of that, the new Canterbury Irish rugby kits are available right now in time for the visits of Japan, New Zealand and Argentina. You can get those directly from Canterbury's or indeed from Elvery's. Our own Will O'Callaghan got a chance to catch up with the Leinster forward Ronan Kelleher at the jersey launch.
What about the front row adjustments around you then? Because did you ever anticipate you might play in a front row with Cian Healy at tight head?
Probably not realistically, but I think as we've seen, he's done some job transitioning as quickly as he had. And so his Port's on the loose head now as well. That brings us back to when I played at UCD for that 1 year. He was on the loose head when I came on in my game, so that's something that he's obviously well used to as well. So I think it's been pretty seamless, or I suppose pretty quick learning for the two of them. And yeah, just looking forward to seeing how they progress for the rest of the year in it as well.
Yeah, because for me, with Healy especially, Porter had played at loose head before, so you're switching back to something you're used to doing. But for Cian Healy, very much in the autumn of his career, is switching sides, which is a very, very difficult thing to do, even if it was early on in your career. But in all likelihood, and Robin McBride said this back in the summer, this might benefit Ireland as much as Leinster when it comes to the next World Cup, if there's versatile players who are available to play on both sides.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think as well we've seen just how he's able to cross back as well, considering he played loose head last week against Glasgow, and just how, I suppose, effortless it looks for him. And that's obviously kind of an indictment on the work that he does, that it's obviously such a difficult task to do, and he kind of makes it look seamless enough. Sure, he was winning scrum penalties on the tight head side and the loose head, so in fairness to him, he's done some job in that regard.
That's Ronan Kelleher in conversation with our own Will there. And a couple more comments come to here. We one from Ben Hayes saying Glazers want to have full control. They were hoping that Ole was their man that could manage the players. Conte would only cause problems with the players. For them, control top four and money. Just an ex-manager choice. who it is and what impact it'll have in itself. Would be very interesting. Davy B says in the conversation we were having earlier on about chants from the various clubs, the fellow who sings the Liverpool songs is Jamie Webster. He's also a brilliant singer-songwriter. His first solo album is great and the second is due out. He's very like Jerry Cinnamon.
Yeah, he is very like Jerry Cinnamon. He definitely is that. Jamie Webster. Liverpool fans love him. Yeah. He got Sky Sports got him to do a few bits and pieces, didn't they, for when Liverpool won the Premier League a couple of years ago. He's certainly someone that Liverpool fans love.
Yeah, he's very good.
Definitely a fact.
Check him out on TikTok.
Yeah,
it's very like Jerry Cinnamon.
I'm sure he's on.
This is me knocking a few years off myself here.
I'm sure he's on. I'm sure he's on TikTok. Yeah. I don't know, Liverpool fans. Again, it kind of comes back to this. I mean, there are musicians that become cult figures of certain places and of certain fan groups, and they're I guess they gain like something from essentially being the unofficial musician of a football club as it becomes. And I guess Liverpool have had such a level of success and such a dedicated fan base that tends to crop up quite a bit over the last.
I believe you hate Liverpool fans and you hate their chants. It's like, why do you despise them so much?
It's absolutely nothing to do with despising them. It's just indifference. I understand it though. Like, I mean, we all want our thing to be the most important thing in the world, and when somebody is like, you're the supporter here, not me, sort of thing. There's sometimes a little bit of a disconnect that develops there, where it's like, oh, you hate this thing. It's like, no, you love that thing, and I don't love that thing. That doesn't mean I hate that thing.
What's a good Arsenal chant?
I don't like. I mean, come on. We're not doing Arsenal chants here this morning. Let's roll through the
Aubameyang running down the wing. What do we got?
Oh, come on, keep that going. Come on,
give us a blast.
Keep
I don't know any of them. That's the
keep them coming.
Arsenal fans strike me as being a bit too sort of they're a bit too about themselves to really have any chance other than Arsenal.
Adrian, I'm not a real Arsenal fan. We know that. I don't live in London. I'm not a match-going fan. So you're asking the wrong person here.
Is your fandom comes through your dad? Does it?
Yes.
All right.
Why are we keep back to this? Yes, it does. Yeah.
I don't know why he's getting so uncomfortable. I don't know either. But we'll maybe convince him to go on, sing us an old Arsenal chant there.
Well, I literally can't.
Dennis was saying he was in the Watford end against Leeds in the Championship playoff in Cardiff in 2006. Today, after months to beat Biarritz, he said between the 3-0 and the hangover, it was a grim experience. If you have any other experiences, Eoin was asking about earlier on about being in the opposite end to the end you should have been in, do lash them into us as well. That was from Dennis on YouTube. So let's keep moving. We're going to talk Liverpool in just a couple of moments' time. It's just gone 9 on this Friday morning. Here's what's happening on OTB Sports Radio over the course of the day. Ogie Moran will be up at 1 o'clock. He's going to be the subject of OTB Gold. Friday Night Racing will be live across all our channels from 3 today. 4 o'clock, it's Brendan Bradley, the subject of Team 33, League of Ireland legend. Keith Andrews will meet Philly McMahon for OTB Gold at 6, and then Off the Ball live on your radio from 7 tonight. Now, we've a ton of NFL goodness coming your way this week with the return of OTB Club Gridiron. It's the newsletter that you absolutely have to get your hands on and your eyes on. It'll have all the highlights from the snap, it'll have reports on matches, early bird tickets to events, and much, much more as well. You can sign up now, otbsports.com/Club Gridiron. Head along there and stick in your email address, and away you go. The snap on OTB, brought to you in association with the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. Northwestern against Nebraska will be at the Aviva Stadium next year. It'll be August 27th. You can check out their website, collegefootballireland.com, for full details on tickets around that, and keep an eye out for a special preview as well of this week's episode during the ad break upcoming. Keegan Fahey sharing his thoughts on the Titans.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
He's a Lion, he's a Grand Slam winner, he's Ireland's leading try scorer, and now you can hear him first, exclusively on the OTB Sports app.
One of my abiding memories is having my cut opened up again as I got hit by the trophy in coppers on the dance floor.
Join Brian O'Driscoll for the best insight and analysis this rugby season.
We haven't had the usual kind of grenades from Gats, that's gone, so we're creating them ourselves.
Get the jump on everyone else. Download the OTB Sports app and turn on notifications now.
And Tennessee have been very impressive. Are they the best team in the AFC? they're right there with the Bills, with the Chargers, with there's a bunch of teams in the AFC, I think, and they're all gonna. It's one of those things where they can all play each other, and some of them will beat one team and they'll lose to another team. So it's all intertwined. So it's just about the matchups and who shows up on the day. The Chiefs, like you said, there was 6.5 points. I picked the Titans, and I felt comfortable doing that, which is an insane thing to say because you're taking a Titans secondary against Patrick Mahomes, but that's how far the Chiefs have fallen. They're just not a good team at all right now at any facet of what they're doing. Mahomes doesn't deserve all the blame, but he's definitely not being able to elevate guys the way he has in the past. The Titans, Derrick Henry always gets the focus, and Derrick Henry was a focus for them. But it was really about Ryan Tannehill, his ability to make a bunch of throws that not many quarterbacks can make, his ability to make plays with his feet as well. He ran for a touchdown, he ran for an important first down. He played really well, and that's the hidden dynamism of that team. Like when you've got Ryan Tannehill there and all the focus is on Henry, you can't just focus on Henry because of the plays he'll make. AJ Brown is phenomenal. Julio Jones has been pitching in here and there. He still doesn't look like the guy you expect him to be. He should have had a touchdown last week on the left sideline where he just couldn't make the play because he couldn't reach the ball in getting off press coverage in a way you expect him to normally. The Titans have questions, but they're well-rounded enough and they pose so many problems that I think they can actually go on a run. But they're the kind of team where if they were going to win the Super Bowl or reach the Super Bowl, they'd have to get hot at the right time, I think. They'd be similar to like Eli Manning's Giants, who are being talked about this week because Eli was on with Tom Brady and Peyton. But it would be similar to that. So they're not necessarily stacked and they're not necessarily the most talented team, but they have enough talent where you could just feel like you'd fear them on the day.
Radio and audio in Ireland has never been more powerful, more effective, or had more opportunity for growth. And now Radio Centre Ireland is here, we're looking to accelerate. To do that, we're looking for a CEO with a focus on increasing advertising investment and championing radio's unique advantages that make it so effective, flexible, and impactful. We need a candidate with the experience, credibility, and vision to lead, drive, influence, shape, and grow this industry. Someone who will be our voice, representing and promoting radio to commercial partners and agencies alike as a medium that delivers return on investment. If that's you, we want to hear from you. And we know we will, because radio works. Apply now. Visit radiocentreireland.ie.
Team 33.
Abysmal. The worst thing I can say about it was that, yeah, there were loud boos at half-time, but they were almost being clapped off at full-time because the fans nearly felt sorry for them.
Team 33. Live every Friday night on OTB Sports Radio. Download the podcast now in the OTB Sports app.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
6 minutes past 9, we've had a lot of Manchester United chat, so time to balance things out. Delighted to say Harriet Pryor from the Anfield Wrap is on the line. Morning, Harriet.
Morning everyone.
I was just thinking about our chat this morning and thinking about the comments from Jamie Carragher last weekend. I think it was from him where he was talking about Liverpool fans drinking in what's going on at the minute. And I wondered, like, in a real sense, because you can get very caught up with like what's happening in any given moment and your opportunity to step back from that and go, actually, this is a golden era for Liverpool at the minute. Are you feeling that fans have that sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think after the United game at the weekend, everyone tried to just take the evening and the day after to just be like, God, we are so lucky to be witnessing this team and witnessing the players in this team with this manager and everything that he has achieved. I think, like you said, it's sometimes really easy to get caught up in the next game and what's coming next and looking ahead. And ultimately, like Pep Linders said the other day, it's just 3 points. We just go there to get the 3 points. But for us as fans, it's so much bigger than that. And we're really excited and we're really cherishing it. And we know that it's not going to be like this forever. So I think, yeah, trying to drink it in every moment. I think there was a lot of drinks drunk as well on Sunday night.
I presume drinking it in means rewatching the game about 20 times.
Yeah, honestly, I've rewatched the highlights so many times. It's actually ridiculous. But no, and all the media around it has been amazing, and it's just really it's a moment in time, isn't it? Like that just doesn't happen every day. You do not ever go to Old Trafford and score 5 and have that amazing atmosphere. I think I wasn't lucky enough to be there, but a lot of my colleagues were, and they were just saying it's sort of once in a lifetime experience, and the atmosphere in the ground felt just incredible. So very jealous everyone was there, but I managed to sort of drink it all in through them.
It does feel like a lot of the analysis afterwards has been about how bad United were. I presume that's leaving Liverpool fans saying like they were that bad because we're that good.
you know what, that they can have their conversations around what's happening in their team. I think for us, we're just trying to focus on ourselves because we know the incredible talent that we've got in the team at the moment. I mean, you can't look at Mo Salah and say that he wasn't incredible, scored a hat-trick, best player in the world right now. We're incredibly lucky that he's playing under us. And I think there's so many standout performances. And if you look on Sunday throughout the team and you're looking at players that were brought in, like Konate, and you're expecting them to maybe have an off day, and he just absolutely smashes it on only his second or third Premier League appearance. And then, you know, there was changes in midfield as well, and every single one of them stepped up and showed what they're capable of, and that's all we can ever ask for as fans. And I think, a lot of the time people reflect and say Manchester United were really bad. There definitely was elements of that. We all know that they've got a lot of problems to sort out, but equally we punished them. We took our opportunities. There's a lot of times in past seasons where I think we've been there and we've been the better team, but we haven't managed to score, or we've come away with a point. And this time we meant business, and we knew we could come away with all three and do so convincingly, and that's exactly what we did.
You mentioned Konate. He looked so settled, didn't he? And it was. I know we had live commentary of the game. There was a lot of chat in advance about him starting and whether it was a bit of a brave move from Klopp. It looked as if it was a good call, but just in relation to the stack of players that are available now in that position, when you look at Phillips, Matip, Gomez, is he seen now as Konate as a long-term foil there for Van Dijk, or what's the thinking about the potential that this guy can reach?
Yeah, I think ultimately him coming in on Sunday shows the trust that Klopp has in him, and also shows that he really sees the potential that he has. And I think we all can see that. And also, obviously, he's got a big height advantage in those games where you kind of need it. So I think that was maybe why he was brought in as well. I don't think anyone's looking at him as a Van Dijk replacement yet. I think he's a really, really great option to have, because we know, obviously, the problems we had last season with our centre-backs. I think at the moment, Van Dijk and Matip is definitely the preferred duo, and they're the ones that seem to be getting the most games. But to be able to have other really incredible centre-backs that you don't even sort of recognise the difference coming in is really great, because last season we definitely didn't have that luxury. So I think he's one that definitely needs a few years under Klopp, but honestly amazing already, and just shows such drive, such confidence. I mean, playing against Ronaldo and he didn't even look phased. So yeah, I think a lot of us were very impressed with his performance.
It obviously doesn't matter a whole pile now, but how did you feel when you saw the team sheet last week, Harriet, and that midfield in particular? Like, obviously things, all's well that ends well in the context of last weekend. At the same time, are you looking at that midfield and thinking to yourself, how far can this take us into the season? Or are you saying to yourself, it actually doesn't matter, the way the defence is playing, the way the front three are playing, any sort of midfield combination can slot in and do an incredible job for this team?
Look, I think it's a really great thing when Klopp proves that we know next to nothing about football, because I love it when you look at the team sheet and you go on Twitter and everyone's having conversations about why we're going to lose, why it's not going to work, and then obviously we go into the game and it works better than it has done all season. So I think the midfield, obviously with Fabinho out, we were concerned. He's such a good holding midfielder, and he does so well in that position that he is unique in the way he does that. And without him, I think sometimes we struggle. Obviously, we had the sort of injury blows out the weekend with Milner and Keita going off. So I think it sort of remains to be seen what happens. But there's a lot of conversations around Liverpool and our midfield, and it's such a difficult midfield to play in, is what I would say, because we have such a distinct style and our defensive line plays so high, and you know, we've got three world-class forwards, so it's a very difficult place to slot in. But I think now we've got a few boosts. We've got Fabinho hopefully back this weekend. Curtis Jones is back now, so Henderson is still seems to be fit, and Kate is not as bad as we first expected. So I think there's a lot of positivity around it, and maybe not as bad as we expected.
Because some of the conversation last season was not only about the absence of Van Dijk and Gomez, but also because of the fact that Fabinho and Henderson had to be pulled back into midfield. And I guess, if anything, this is just proving the importance in particular of Jordan Henderson. Not that it needed any proving to Liverpool fans, but just what a vital midfielder he is in terms of adding that extra layer of protection, amongst other things.
Oh, absolutely. I think you saw last season when both him and Fabinho were pulled back into the defence that nothing else worked. It threw the whole balance of the team off. And even when we had Nat Phillips and Reece Williams in there and we were able to play Henderson and Fabinho in their correct positions, it all linked a little bit better. I mean, that Henderson assist at the weekend, if any other player that had been sort of world-class rated had made that, everyone would be talking about it. And we all absolutely are, because it was unbelievable. And he just goes under the radar a lot, and I don't think he necessarily minds that. that, because he knows his role is bigger than himself, and it's putting the team first, and that's what he always does. But his leadership skills and the presence that he has in the dressing room and on the pitch can't be underestimated, because he's such a huge figure in that team, and we've seen a lot of times when he doesn't play, the whole team suffers. So he is such an integral part of that, and yeah, definitely he's been in form. He wasn't the weekend, and long may it continue.
It's sometimes a little bit tricky to nail down what exactly Klopp's first choices are in certain areas of the pitch, and the front three is obviously something ever since the arrival of Diogo Jota, which has been a really good debate, because there's been 4 real options there. But does the selection of Jota last week suggest to you that maybe he slipped above Mane in the pecking order? Because I think the conversation has moved away from Jota versus Firmino over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that is interesting, because we a lot of the time say it's always going to be Salah, Mane, and then we're thinking, who is the third one going to be? I think I don't necessarily think it's a ranking above or below thing. I thought it was an interesting move to leave Mane out at the weekend. I don't think that's going to be the case every week. I think he will retake his position this weekend and moving forward. But it's really good to have that fourth option, and one that when he comes on into the side, you're never worried. And I think with Jota, what he brings is the ability to score goals in a lot of different ways. I mean, he's even scoring headers, which doesn't seem like it would fit his physique and stuff. And he's scoring really good headers and getting those sort of goals where they're just tap-ins or you know, they need just someone on the end of them, and he's always seems to be in the right place. So I think we're very lucky that he's had he's just come in and he's clicked straight away in our team. Does that mean that he's necessarily ranked above or below Firmino and Mane now? I don't think it's sort of a ranking thing, but more that we need the strength in depth, purely because we play so many games. We're still in the League Cup after beating Preston. We're playing, you know, Champions League, Premier League, and it all starts to ramp up around Christmas. So I think none of them are worried about getting too much game time. Although I'm sure Mane was frustrated that he didn't start in such a big game at the weekend.
I can imagine. And like, the thing is, obviously on the Firmino front, things have, as I say, changed quite a bit, as you know, with regards to him being the most vulnerable of the classic front three to Jota. But obviously there was that hat-trick against Watford. But it seems almost this week that the stock's just gone up another level, because everybody's talking about Ronaldo and how bad he is at pressing and how bad Manchester United are pressing, and everybody's talking about how amazing Firmino is in that department. Like, when you look around at the other top 4 teams, are you kind of like licking your chops almost, looking at maybe the likes of Lukaku and Ronaldo, who are a more out and out number 9, who don't exactly offer that level of work rate or that little bit of something different that perhaps Roberto Firmino brings to Liverpool?
Yeah, I was actually writing my column on it this week, because I think him in the false 9 position is just something incredibly unique and something we're very lucky to have, because, like you said, his work rate and his sort of defensive play as well as his attacking play is out of this world. And I think Klopp said at the weekend, if someone needs to write a book about how he's interpreted the false 9 position, because it is so clever and it's so smart. And I think what I love about Firmino is he's completely unselfish. So he's often the one that makes the ball the second to last ball rather than the assist, or rather than getting the goal. And obviously we know he can score as well. He got that hat trick, but he's very much a team player, and he likes to see he's got a really good sort of sense of where everyone around him is at all times. Like, I think that's what you're getting at the moment. These players are seeming to link really well together, and Firmino is sort of the linchpin of that. And when Firmino has a good day, generally it just seems like the rest of the team have a good day. So obviously we've been playing without an out-and-out striker for quite a while now, but you do look at other teams and you think, I think obviously Chelsea are doing very well at the moment. Ronaldo, I don't think is the key to all Manchester United problems, but it does seem to be working really well for us. And that high pressing game is something that I'm really enjoying. And I think when you look at the game at the weekend, when Manchester United tried to press us high, they left so many gaps in defence, and that was when we were able to break through. So I think you see it done not that well, and then you think, wow, we do it really, really well in comparison to that, and how great is that?
Harriet, just you mentioned a little earlier on about Henderson's assist, and how, you know, a different player would suddenly be seen as, this is one of the greatest passes ever been made. Is there a bit of, like, when you tie that in with, you know, is Salah the best player in the world? Every Liverpool fan will tell you that he is, and suddenly everybody else has a bit of a debate about it. Or like the Trent Alexander-Arnold stuff for England last year. Like, is there a bit of that about the Liverpool mentality, that sort of everybody is against us and we're going to win all this despite them?
I don't think there's a mentality that everyone is against us. I think we just find it quite, I'm using probably the wrong word, but that everyone sort of rules us out. I think there was the predictions at the start of the season, and it was the Sky Sports pundits, and not one of them predicted that we'd win or come second in the league. I think one of them had us in second, and I think we just enjoy saying, okay, well, we're going to see what everyone else is saying and see what everyone says we're not going to do well, and then we're going to do the opposite and absolutely smash it. So I think when you're looking at players like Henderson, I'm not even sure he's that fussed about the exterior and then the conversations that are going on, because he knows how much we value him and he knows how much within the club he's valued. But I don't think we've got a sort of us against them mentality at all. I think we're just trying to do our best. And within the fan base, I think everyone is so jubilant at the moment and in such a good mood that we're just chatting about ourselves. Honestly, we're not even looking at the league at the moment or what other teams are doing. It's just a really nice elated bubble to be in after the weekend, and hopefully it continues.
Before we leave you, the Salah contract situation sort of rumbles on. What's the sense of what's delaying this, Harriet? Is it that a concern that a 29-year-old Salah is different from a 32-year-old Salah, which seems like a reasonable enough sort of discussion, or is it that he's looking for too much money? Or what's your sense of why this is delayed?
I think we always knew that this would maybe be the one that's a little bit harder to get over the line. Look, I don't think a 32-year-old Salah is a 32-year-old normal footballer, because he's 29 now and he just seems to be coming into the form of his life, and I think he's got many, many years left at the top of his game. I think ultimately we know there's a lot of different expectations that need to be met, and from his team and from Liverpool's side and what FSG wants to do. So, I mean, I personally am not aware of, obviously the internal conversations or anything like that, but I just hope it gets sorted, and I think all Liverpool fans want to see it get sorted really soon. And when he's coming out and saying, he wants to end his career at Liverpool and he wants to stay with us as long as possible, that only lights our sort of fire even more. So yeah, I think it will go over the line. I think it is just taking time because they need to all agree terms. I think there's a sense of discomfort maybe from FSG's end or the club's end that, changing the pay structure and everything like that. But ultimately, when you have a player like Salah and someone as good as that, I think shifting things and making exceptions is no bad thing, because he is absolutely incredible and will be at the top of his game for many years to come, we believe. Yeah, and life would be too perfect if Salah was signed up. That'd be... It'd be just too much. Too much happiness in one week. Exactly. We can take that, I think.
Harriet, thanks a million.
Thank you so much.
Harry Pryor there from the Anfield Wrap. Now, Liverpool fans, stay tuned because you won't want to miss our next Cadbury FC Roadshow. We're going behind the scenes at Anfield with the legendary Liverpool striker Robbie Fowler. We're also going to be joined by the Liverpool captain and Irish international Niamh Fahey, and the former Liverpool midfielder and former Liverpool physio Richie Partridge. It's all thanks to Cadbury FC and their club partnerships, granting you behind the scenes access at the Premier League's biggest clubs, coming soon to OTB Sports channel, so stay tuned for all of that. The Krabby Quiz is back. It's coming up next. First of all, some more Ronan O'Gara and the prospect of facing the All Blacks.
New Zealand's so impressive this summer in the Rugby Championship in retaining their title. Coming back to play in Dublin, it'll bring back some memories, I'm sure, for a lot of the players from a couple of years ago before going to a World Cup. But great chance to pitch yourself up against the All Blacks in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely. That will be a great opportunity. Hopefully get selected for that one. But there hasn't been an awful lot of chat about the All Blacks yet. We've just kind of been focusing on Japan for the time being. And then it's a big window for us, the 3 big games there against all 3 teams. But the All Blacks is obviously one that everyone in the country will be looking forward to. And hopefully we can replicate what that team did in 2018, 2019.
It's a really important period, I was thinking as well, because you've come off the back of the summer. There's that block of club games which you spoke about. There's going to be a really intense period with the club game once you come out of this international window, and then straight away it's into the Six Nations afterwards. With selection being so crucial, we're a couple of years out from the next World Cup too. This is a very important staging ground for getting ready for the Six Nations in the new year as well.
Yeah, absolutely, it is indeed. And we briefly talked about the next World Cup, and I suppose just keeping that in the back of our minds. But I suppose this window is pretty important to set us off on the right foot in our progression to the next World Cup. And we just talked about getting better each campaign. So there's a couple of blocks now before then. And I suppose from us, it's just about collective improvement across each of them campaigns. So yeah, we're looking to get off on the right foot now in this block.
Chris Waddle.
Oh, you're kidding me. September. Kyle Lafferty.
Are you joking me?
Is that right?
I know, it's not right.
Anybody else?
Leash, was it?
Like, that is one of the most stupid questions.
Darius Vassell? Seriously, you all need to just stay quiet. This is getting really annoying doing this quiz.
What is going on here?
Welcome along to the shoutiest segment on Irish radio. It's the scintillating, it's the stupefying, it's the splendido crappy quiz. Every Friday we pit 3 of team off the ball up against each other in a no-holds-barred quiz of sporting factoids at the end of the week. Allow me to welcome today's contestants. Our first contestant today is buzzing after a massive week for the Midlands. Firstly, Buccaneers RFC's Bowden Barrett got named to make his 100th cap for the All Blacks, and then, to put the icing on the cake, Athlone was depicted for the full 60 seconds of the Angelus last night. Give it up for the Athlone Bone, Adrian, who's your daddy, Barry.
There is some very good scenery, to be fair. It lends itself very well to a good Angelus montage.
I was watching it closely and I was wondering, where is this? I thought it was Ballina actually for a moment, and then I realised no, it's too beautiful, it's Athlone. And they revealed it at the end. It was like a lovely payoff after 60 seconds of bells.
I must go on to the player and watch that back.
Nice. Our next contestant today has been lifting weights with his upper lip for 11 months, curling it into shape for its month in the spotlight. That's right, it is Movember again, and it's time to grow that Ron Swanson, or maybe it's time to let that Salvador Dali do its thing. Whatever it grows, it is our pleasure to re-welcome the mustachioed menace back to the show. Give it up for Ger Gilroy.
Thank you very much, Owen. Thank you very much. Glad to be back.
It's trundling along there nicely.
Trundling is the word, yes.
Is it not cheating, Ger?
Yes, it probably is.
I'm just like, we should have this on the record so that when you're slagging me in 2 weeks' time.
Now, here's the thing, right? So last year I realised that I couldn't do the full Salvador Dali, and that was my mistake. So what I'm doing this year is I'm starting with this, and by the end, I'll have the Salvador Dali.
Nice.
By the end of maybe for Christmas week, I might be able to have the Salvador Dali.
That would be class. That would really be a.
That's the Poirot sort of thing, is what you're talking about, isn't it?
Oh yeah, but longer than Poirot. But Salvador Dali's got a few extra inches on Poirot, I would have thought.
Wow.
While Adrian, meanwhile, our last contestant,
That took a bit of it. Salvador Dali's got a couple of extra inches on Poirot. You've obviously compared and contrasted.
Moustache size. While Adrian has traditionally claimed the Midlands on this quiz, he is like Lisa Simpson right now, jealously looking over at the baby with the unibrow. That's right, we've managed to find another person in the sports department who hails from a county that doesn't have any coastline. If you look closely into this contestant's eyes, you will see a childhood sadness from never, ever being able to go to the beach. Give it up to OTB's own John King, Will Walk and Roll O'Callaghan.
Yeah, Owen, I'm hoping that you don't have to go back to Mayo for an All-Ireland final preview next year after throwing the ultimate shade at Ballina there.
It was our compliment to Athlone. Ballina is a beautiful, beautiful town, and nobody can ever take that away from them. So is Athlone, though. That's the problem.
He's trying to cover himself too much.
Yeah, we should do a World Cup of terrible towns. Athlone versus, no, I'm only joking, of great towns. Ballina versus Athlone will be the final, and the people and the scenery absolutely gorgeous.
I hope somebody's tweeting that comment right now without any context.
Both perfect for an Angelus montage. As ever, the format is the classic crappy quiz with a series of questions on a range of themes. Then it's on to the slip and slide of trivia, which is the rapid fire round. You can podcast the crappy quiz on otbsports.com or the OTB Sports app. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to click the thumbs up, even if this is a miserable experience. Please send any questions you have via postcard. Please, we haven't got them in ages. The Crappy Quiz Quizmaster, Off the Ball Towers, Marconi House, Diggs Lane, Dublin 2. Round 1 is the boring questions round. It is never multiple choice. Adrian, can you name the last country the Republic of Ireland women's team beat in a competitive international fixture before Finland?
Competitive.
Any ideas? What are the options?
Not really. I'm just trying to cycle through a few countries and see if anything.
Come on, do it out loud. Cycle through.
No,
orally.
I'd just be literally naming countries. I'm gonna go with.
Come on, pick a country there. Do it.
Yeah, come on, Jesus.
Northern Ireland.
No.
Slovakia?
No. Montenegro. Oh, Will O'Callaghan there. Coming in. Possibly.
We put Will in the quiz. We should just finish this now. It's over.
I was just about to say,
hand Will the trophy.
I think Will has just given us a spoiler there as to who might be wearing the crown at the end of this. Ger, question one for you.
Hang on now. We should really deal with this properly. Will needs to be handicapped here like -4 points.
Me and Ger are like that guy on did you see the pointless quiz during the week where he was like, what was Homer's, it's like after nectar, what was Homer's other favorite
yeah.
Donuts.
In the epic poem.
Yeah, in the epic poem.
That was the giveaway.
That was the giveaway.
It was a giveaway. It wasn't in The Simpsons. Yeah, go on.
Ger, if Patrick Mahomes is the highest paid NFL player per year, earning $45 million annually, who is the second highest paid?
Dak Prescott.
No, it is a quarterback. It's Josh Allen on $43 million a year.
That was a specialist topic question as well.
Yeah, there you go. Will, in fairness, you're the only one who got done out of a specialist topic here. Will, who was the last off-league player to win a football All-Star?
Stop. That's a gimme. That's a tap-in.
Carl Daly?
Correct. In fairness, it's not. It's 24 years. It's 24 years.
You know that Will has that tattooed on his arse. Like, that's... That is a specialist topic if ever there was one.
Good answer, Will. He got it quickly, in fairness. 1997, Cathal Daly was named in the All-Star Team of the Year, the last off-league footballer to make
so
it.
So few options to choose from as well, is the thing.
Round two.
We've had an All-Star in every position in both codes, Adrian. It's going to be a while before Westmeath get past.
It didn't take much, does it? It's
we've got one more recently than off-league.
I hope Midlands 103 are tweeting this out now as we speak.
Round two is the Ivan Etniaz round. Back despite no popular demand. In this round, we will play the voice of a sports person, and all you've got to do is tell me who's speaking. The only catch is that the voice will be played backwards. And in this round, you will hear the voices of football pundits. Adrian, you're first up. Have a listen to this.
If you're pressing, you can only press when every single person out.
I would say.
I would suggest that's probably my fault.
Hang on a second. No, I would say that's Graham Souness.
Oh no!
Minus points for Barry and minus points for you.
I don't know how that happened. Can we get the next clip played on PFL to ensure that it is going backwards? The next one's going backwards for sure. Yeah.
No. They all have to be the same now. This is nonsense. We're all no matter what happens. We play the round, but we all get a point each. That's the
no. That's not the way this thing works.
Come
on.
What we're going to do right now is we're just going to make sure that
you can't compound your error by making 2 more errors. Oof.
Let's. We got the question for number 2. Good to go. Yeah. Okay. So apologies. Adrian's got a leg up there. I apologise to everybody. This thing happens. You know.
The producer has just said here. The ruling is that the point is fine.
You can't do that.
Ger, just keep your ears open. This is your question.
Come on! You
might as well have played it forward.
This is an exceptionally easy round. Everybody fails in this round.
This is ridiculous.
That was a lot easier than it sounded last night.
It nearly sounds the same going backwards.
Sure. What's your?
Is that actually going backwards?
What's your answer?
It's John Giles.
It's great. Let's see, you're 1-1 now, and Will might actually have got a harder one here. So
Michael Gagnon, here we go.
I hope that this one is going backwards. This round has been a disaster. I apologise on behalf of myself. I messed up. Will, have a listen. What are you thinking, Will?
That is much trickier.
It definitely is.
Not really.
It definitely is in the one I got played forward.
Yeah. Can I get one more listen to it?
Yeah, let's do it one more time.
Like a never-ending rap line at this stage.
Gonna need an answer, Will.
I actually have no idea.
Pass.
Oh, really? Yeah. Can I get a bonus point?
You can't get a bonus point, but tell us who it is.
The answer.
Tamika Richards.
Yeah. Played away there.
Oh, good work.
Yeah. Micah Richards and Will, unfortunately, that leaves you on 1 point. Jerry, you're on 1 point. Adrian, you're on 1 point, and that is the end of round 2. So
I got played forward. Jerry got somebody he's been working with for 20 years. And Will got Shafted.
I think Richards was pretty easy, I thought.
Round 3.
The first time I've actually recognised it.
In fairness, you didn't get a specialist topic in round 1, Adrian, so we literally played your backwards clip forward.
That's fair enough.
Round 3 is you still had to tap it in. Like, I mean, you didn't necessarily know who Graham Souness was.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can never take anything for granted here. Round 3 is the Pass the Parcel of Doom round. Yes, it is time for another edition of our brand new round in the crappy quiz. And this round, I will give you a category that involves a list of names. All you got to do is give me a name that matches the list, and the Parcel of Doom passes on to the next contestant, who then also has to give me a name. We will keep moving through the list until one of you gives me an incorrect answer, at which point that person will be deducted 1 point. Adrian, you're going to lead us on the first list here. Barcelona managers this century.
Ronald Koeman.
That's 1. Next up is Ger.
Etienne.
That's 2. Will.
Frank Rijkaard.
Frank Rijkaard, that's 3.
Pep,
yep. Ger.
Luis Enrique,
yeah.
Tito Villanova.
Tito Villanova, correct, yeah.
That was the one that I had next.
Adrian, back to you.
What happens here? I missed the start of it.
Don't know.
Adrian's out. He loses a point. Ger, it's over to you.
Luis van Gaal.
Van Gaal, good answer. Still in it. Can you stay alive, Will?
Tata Martino.
Gerardo Martino, yes.
Yeah, Tata,
yeah. Indeed.
I think there's only about 2 left, or 1 left.
Are there many left?
4 left. A couple of very short stints. Gonna need to push you for an answer here.
Albert Ferrer.
I can't give you that. I can't. Lorenzo Serra Ferrer.
No, that's not what he said at all. Will you stop?
Entirely, I can't.
That was closer to Ander Herrera than it was.
It was indeed. Will you survive? You're the only person who doesn't get deducted a point. Ernesto Valverde was one you didn't say, and Radimir Antic. That was the list. Will, you're on 1 point. Ger and Adrian, you're both back to 0. Ger, you lead us off on this one. A list of League of Ireland Premier Division grounds.
Finn Park.
Finn Park is 1.
Who's next?
Will.
Richmond Park.
Richmond Park, indeed, yeah.
Dalymount Park.
Dalymount. We're 3 in. Back to you, Ger.
Tala
Stadium, yeah.
The RSC.
The RSC, yeah.
The Showgrounds.
Showgrounds, yeah.
Turner's Cross.
Yes.
They're in the first division.
No, they're in first division, correct. They're not on my list, sorry. Apologies, Will, thank you. I'm trying to rattle through these. Yeah, you're down to -1, Ger. There is 5 left. No, sorry, 4 left.
Oh, for God's sake.
Will, back to you.
Oriel Park.
Oriel Park, correct.
That's what I was going for.
3 left to choose from, Adrian.
Talca Park?
No.
Was Richmond Park said?
Richmond Park was said. The 3 left were Bishopsgate, Heading the Game Park / United Park, and the Brandywell were the other options. So, Will, you've survived once again, and Will, you take us up here on the third one. Current Premier League shirt sponsors.
Team Viewer.
Team Viewer is 1. Adrian.
Standard Chartered.
Standard Chartered, yeah, Liverpool.
God.
Sure.
888.
No, 888 is not a sponsor right now. I had to peruse the list there. Ger, you're out. Will, back to you.
Etihad / Etihad Airways / Man City.
Correct. Adrian.
3.
3, yeah, good shout. Chelsea. Will, back to you.
Kazoo, or are they still Aston Villa?
Kazoo and Everton. Villa and Everton are sponsored by Kazoo.
Emirates,
yeah. Still Arsenal sponsors. Will.
This is a struggle now. So many betting companies and stuff as well. You've said Standard Charter for Liverpool. You've said 3 for them. Tottenham are. This is a struggle. I've said Everton.
I think that's time up.
Yeah, I think I'm out of time there.
Will loses. Adrian survives.
The Sports Direct one?
Sports Direct is not one. No.
It's a point anyway.
Newcastle are sponsored by Fun 88. Of course. AIA was Spurs, American Express was Brighton, Betway was West Ham, FBS was Leicester, Fun 88 was Newcastle, Hollywood Bets is Brentford, Lotus is Norwich, ManBet X is Wolves, Espo Top is Leeds, Sportsbet.io is Southampton, SpreadX Sports is Burnley, Stake.com is Watford, and W88 is Crystal Palace. So the scores after round 3 is Will on 0, Adrian on -1, Ger on -2. Round 4 is the Fun Free Magic number round. Contestants in this round get 3 points for getting the number exactly right. If no one manages that, the nearest contestant who doesn't go bust gets 2 points. The second closest gets 1 point. I'm going to state that we can only accept the answer that's written on your paper. I'm also going to have to ask for your pens once the music ends. So if you don't mind, give us the following number. The number of total hurling All-Irelands Limerick have won in their history, plus the number of Premier League goals scored by Mo Salah so far this season, plus the total number of career touchdown passes Tom Brady has now completed in the NFL.
Jesus Christ.
Plus the number of delegates that were eligible to vote at last week's GAA Special Congress. Your 30 seconds expire when Sinatra sings Bright Shiny Beads.
What's the Brady question? I haven't, that's...
He reached a milestone last week of touchdown passes in his career. How many is his total now? The number of All-Irelands Limerick have won in hurling, the number of Premier League goals Salah has scored so far this season, and the number of delegates that were eligible to vote at Special Congress last week. You add them all up. What do you get? Adrian, you're angry, I can tell. But your pen is down.
Is such a curveball, it's such a loose, for somebody who hasn't literally...
Yeah, whatever.
A clue.
Get your numbers there.
What's your total
Show
number?
us your number.
388.
388, Ger?
790.
790, Will?
Oh, it's higher than that. I've gone 14 plus 600, which is 614. Sorry, I had to write it in Google Docs. I don't have a sheet. And
oh, come on. He's working out the answers. He heard what I had first. Go on.
Yeah,
I think DQ. I think
847.
Bust, doesn't matter. Ger gets 2 points. Ger's back to 0. Adrian gets a point. He's also back to 0.
Ridiculous.
It is 0-0-0 after the Fun Free Magic number round.
Yes, yeah.
So just to go through that, Limerick have won 10 All-Irelands. Salah has scored 10 goals. Tom Brady has now thrown 602 touchdown passes in his NFL career. And there were 183 eligible voters at Special Congress last weekend. That totals up to 805, which is 0-0-0. We're going to have to go again very quickly here on the Ireland caps because it's a three-way tie. Can you write this down in your paper, please? How many caps does Conor Salmon have? And whoever gets closest gets to go first. Whoever gets second closest gets to go second, and so on. And there will be no bust in this. Whoever just gets closest. So number
Salmon
down.
of College.
Salmon of College. Okay, Ger, what have you got? 6. Will?
6.
I've gone for
4.
8.
8. Adrian goes first, Ger goes second, Will goes third.
That's no advantage. Do I not get to choose?
The answer...
What's the answer?
The answer is 9. No, you want to go...
I'm happy to go last.
Okay, grand, go last. Who did I say goes...
I'll go first.
Ger goes second. Ger goes first, Will goes second, Adrian goes last. Fine. All right, Ger, are you ready?
Yeah.
Rapid fire round. Your 40 seconds starts now. Gareth Anscombe plays for which Welsh club?
Ospreys.
Correct. Name either of the teams in this year's World Series.
Pass.
Too long.
San Francisco Giants.
Astros or Braves. Aston Villa's Matty Cash has this week been given permission to play for which country, Will?
Poland.
Correct. Name the last club Ronald Koeman took charge of before Barcelona. Everton. Too long. What club does Denise O'Sullivan play for, Adrian?
The Atlanta Braves.
No, North Carolina Courage. Who's coming third in the Formula 1 Drivers' Championship this season, Ger?
Verstappen.
Bottas. Unbroken is the name of which ex-Kerry footballer's new book, Will?
Jade O'Mahony.
Correct. Will O'Callaghan wins it. Will O'Callaghan wins it by a point.
With 1 point, I think, as well, right?
With 1 point. Indeed. Will O'Callaghan, congratulations. You snuck it at the end. What do you have to say for yourself?
I'm glad we didn't start with a 4-point penalty. I'm also glad to win the Battle of the Midlands plus Ger. So there you go. Nathan decides to spend some time with his kids and I win the quiz.
We just take a moment for Adrian's Atlanta Braves, North Carolina Courage.
I knew she was in America, so you know what I mean. Just throw it out there. I could have said donuts. That was my next answer.
Different sport, but at least it was the right, emotional, brave, courage. You're
right
what you're
pitch.
thinking there.
Yeah, it's synonymous there. Okay, you've been watching the Crappy Quiz. Thanks, Millie, for being with us. OTB AM has been brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. If you're a Munster fan, by the way, there's a brand new Munster Rugby podcast over on the Rugby channel, The Red 78 with Alan Quinlan and Niamh Briggs. Every Wednesday they're going to be bringing you in-depth analysis of each weekend's game, interviews from some of the biggest players and all the action from other teams around the province. You can subscribe to the Off the Ball YouTube channel and the OTB AM podcast. We'll be back here on OTB AM on Monday. Mark Lawrence and Alan Quinlan and much, much more from 7:30 as ever. Have a good weekend.
To say welcome back as well, it being a Thursday evening. To the show is John Giles. John, good evening to you.
Evening, Richie.
How are you getting on?
Oh, so far so good, Richie.
So far so good. That is what I like to hear. I'd imagine you're a damn sight better than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been this week, John.
Well, I wouldn't like to be in his position.
Yeah, it's a rough one.
Let's put it that way. Very, very difficult position for him to be in now.
Yeah, Manchester United 0, Liverpool 5, of course. It was a game we brought you live on Sundays Off the Ball. Just a remarkable game, all ends up, not only because of the nature of the defeat, I guess, from Manchester United, and there have been a few big ones in recent years. It kind of seems strange to say that. We think back to the 6-1 against Manchester City a decade ago now at this stage, and there have been others in between now since. The Tottenham game was a bit of a disaster last year too for them, again at Old Trafford, and this time around shipping 5 goals, defensively looking all over the place. Their discipline seemed to have been an absolute nightmare almost from the get-go as well. There was literally no positives to take out of it from that game from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, which of course has led John to talk over his future this week. How did you mark the United performance last Sunday watching that game live?
Oh, it was 0, Richie. It couldn't have been much worse against a top team in a top match. And you mentioned there the results in previous years. They were one-offs, Richie. I don't ever remember the Manchester United team. I've gone back to Ferguson's time when they were really successful. They were beaten one time, I think, at Southampton, but picked it up straight away.
Yeah.
I mean, this particular run they're on is very, very poor. Leicester beat them. They had a great second half against the European team. But, you have to go back on it. And Paul Scholes, who was a great player for Manchester United, was bang on. And he said after the match, he said, "You must be happy with the comeback." And he said, "No, I'm not. I'm more worried about the first half." In fact, he said, if they play like that against Liverpool, they're going to get a right hiding. So they haven't been playing well. There hasn't been a consistency about the performance that you need from a Manchester United team if they're going to challenge for anything. But you don't expect a disaster like they had last weekend.
Yeah, it's a strange one because everybody could look at the first half of that Atalanta game. We don't have to be Paul Scholes' level of the game to figure that there were many problems with how United played, particularly defensively that night. So it seemed an incredible surprise when you decided to go with the same starting 11 more or less again on Sunday. Like, to think that there weren't any issues. That there's two ways of looking at it. You could have said, you could look at it, that team being the same and say, right, go out and prove me wrong. Go and show that you're actually worth more and have a performance in you that you didn't show on Wednesday night. Or it shows a certain level of naivety to think that despite the flaws and problems that were shown up against Atalanta in the Champions League, that they'd suddenly be rectified against a far superior team come the Sunday.
Well, it's very hard to rectify it after one match. I think the problem there, Richie, is that Solskjaer's been there for 3 years, and after 3 years, then you do put your mark on the club. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can have a bad, like in Ferguson's time, as I said, he'd beaten at Southampton. He knew that was a disaster. But then he went on a great run after that. And that was one match you could pick out probably in his reign at Old Trafford, particularly after a couple of years when he got a grip of the place. But this is the manager's, Solskjaer's now third year. And after 3 years, you shouldn't be having as many bad performances as we've seen in the last few weeks, particularly the Liverpool performance.
It seems like you're talking about a team that should be in his mould and in his vision now, because he's been there that long and he's had, a few transfer windows to get this right, and he's spent a lot of money. If anything, they seem to have regressed, which just doesn't seem to make a heap of sense at all.
No, I mean, if you look at most of the managers, it took Klopp a little while, well, Guardiola, all this, Tuchel to put their stamp on it. Now, Tuchel did very well. He did it very, very quickly. Klopp took a little bit of time. Pep did it most of the time. But, you see, I think in Solskjaer's case, I don't think he's capable of putting his stamp on it. Or maybe this is his stamp, Richie. Now, I don't want to be too cruel to him, but this is a fact, and we're talking big stuff here about Manchester United. I don't know what Solskjaer's style is supposed to be. All I read about from the time he came to the club, we're going back to the Fergie day. He's got people around him like Michael Carrick and Mike Phelan, as if you're going to go back to the way Ferguson had it with the staff that he has. There is no Fergie way, Richie. It's the way Fergie does it, whatever club he goes to. So it's not the Manchester United way and the Fergie way. I mean, when you come into management like Solskjaer's into, and what you do over the years with Ferguson, you learn from Ferguson. You learn what you think he did right, what he did wrong, and then you do what you want to do. You can't copy an ex-manager. You have to do it yourself. And I think that's the position that Solskjaer is in. It's like I said, well, we'll do it the way Fergie did it. It doesn't work that way. You have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And I think he's probably a nice lad in that, but is he capable of doing the job for Manchester United? I don't think so. I just don't think he's capable of doing it. What's needed. The thing about
Ferguson as well is that he was there that long and he had so much time to, I guess, embed himself in the job. And then when the success actually hit, like, there were so many different ways that Manchester United played under Ferguson. Like, he had like 1,000 different ways to skin a cat. Like, I think back to I was listening to a podcast about it recently, about the cup final in 1990, which they eventually won, of course, in a replay, which was Ferguson's first trophy. But he was like playing Paul Ince at right back. Like, there was different ways and means of going about things, and he would approach every, I guess, challenge upon its own merits. And to think that there's a one size fits all that should be in place for a Manchester United squad, particularly in the current game, just seems ridiculously misguided.
Well, that was never true where there was a way to play. Richie, because when you play different teams, you've got to play in the way that you win matches. So there's not any one way. Like, don't forget, in Ferguson's case, it was 3 years before he got it right. He made a good few mistakes, but when he got it right, he got it right. And it was him. If he was making the mistakes in the first 3 years, it was his fault. Right? In Solskjaer's case, to be honest, I don't think he's in charge of the situation. So Fergie, there was nobody telling Fergie what to do. He had a belief in himself. He did make some mistakes. But when he got it right, he got it right. But it was the way he did it, the way he wanted to do it, and it's his personality. He wasn't copying anybody. He was doing it himself. Now, what's happened, I think, in this times, because Solskjaer played under him and the staff, Phelan and Carrick played under. And when he was coming into it, Solskjaer actually said, we're going back to the Fergie way. But there is no Fergie way. Fergie's gone. And you have to do it yourself. Obviously, you take things from Fergie that you believe to be right, and then you work on them from then on. But it doesn't work in that particular way. Richie, in my book, of course you learn. You learn from the managers. You learn from what Fergie did right, what he did wrong, did most things right. But then you put your own stamp on it. I don't see any stamp from Solskjaer on this group of players. And now you get the inconsistency that you see.
Yeah.
And when he's there for a few years, then the players, it's funny in the dressing room, the morale, they know if he's not doing something right, they know about it. I mean, if you take the Pogba case, for example, against Leicester, they were terrible against Leicester a couple of weeks ago. And I didn't see all the match. But Pogba was one of the leading men in it. Very, very, very poor. And who's out after the match telling how it should be done? Only Pogba. We have to do this. I'm not getting this right. We're not getting that right. I think he left him out of the next match.
Yeah.
And then he came on a sub last week. And what I read in the paper, that Pogba's not talking to him. As if it's Solskjaer's fault.
Yeah. And it's suddenly become a very leaky dressing room as well. Like, there's talk that some of the players don't feel necessarily that Solskjaer, as nice a guy as he might be, and as much as they might like him as a person, don't necessarily rate him as a tactician, as somebody who can lead the team forward. As soon as those stories start to come out of a dressing room, like directly out of a dressing room, that's almost the point of no return for a manager, really.
Well, it's very, very difficult, because players in dressing rooms, you don't have every player the same in the dressing room. Everybody has their own ideas and their own way, and usually looking after, well, how does it affect me when we play badly? That's what happens when you don't have a Ferguson or a Guardiola or a Klopp in the as manager, because you have to lead them, and players will always find a way out. But when you see it so obvious that Pogba, who's, in my opinion, one of the major faults in the team, is out saying, this is what we're doing wrong and this is what we have to do, and he's not doing it. He's not doing it himself. Now, if you look back on Ferguson and Matt Busby and they're the great managers, they wouldn't allow that. They wouldn't allow it to get to that stage. They just wouldn't. So I feel sorry for Solskjaer in many ways, because I don't think he has the control at Old Trafford and the power at Old Trafford that managers need. I think he came into the club, and I think there are forces in the club who don't respect him. I mean, I think as a manager, you need to be in charge of the comings and goings of players. That's one of the major things in the club.
Yeah.
I don't think he's in charge of that.
The Ronaldo situation would kind of point to that, because that seemed like a vanity purchase from the club's point of view, specifically because, and myself and yourself, funnily enough, had that chat on the Thursday night when it appeared like it was all gung-ho that Ronaldo was going to Manchester City, and then the next day you've got people like Rio Ferdinand popping up on social media, with hints that things mightn't necessarily be moving in that direction, and it seems like outside factors outside the club guided this 36-year-old who's very, very talented and extremely gifted footballer and finisher, but in terms of what he can add to a modern team at the top end of a league isn't actually that much anymore. They have been almost railroaded from a vanity standpoint into signing Ronaldo, and it seems to be regressing them even further, because now they have to absolutely service his needs on and off the pitch, and if that doesn't happen, then Manchester United aren't going to win matches.
Well, the main thing there, which you'd have to ask, was Solskjaer the man that wanted Ronaldo?
I think the answer to that is clearly no. Yeah.
A lot of people would say, and I would say, and I think, no, I don't think so. And I think that is the situation at the club. I don't think he's in charge of the comings and goings, and that's 90% of the job. Like, as a manager, you get rid of the players you don't want, and you get in the players you do want. That's the vision you have for the team. I don't think that is the case with Solskjaer. I think the people that were doing the Ronaldo deal, for example, I don't know who they are, but I'd say that there's an awful lot of the financial situation involved in these particular moves.
Yeah.
In other words, like getting Ronaldo back in. I mean, they probably got their money back and selling the jerseys. But you'd have to ask Solskjaer, did you want them? Now, he might say, yeah, I did, but I would doubt it very much. The Pogba situation at Old Trafford, right? He hasn't signed a new contract. They've offered him an increase on his contract because he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season, right? Because he can refuse anything that's gone, and he's refused it so far, right? Now, as a manager in Ferguson's case, the first thing he'd say early on, I don't want this guy here. If he's not going to sign a contract, he's not part of the team, I want him out. I don't think Solskjaer has the power to do that. I think the people who are doing it, this is a financial situation. Pogba they bought for 90 million. At the end of the season, he can go for nothing. Now, I think the people that do the money stuff there, this is something that would drive them round the bend. We're going to lose a player that we paid 90 million for.
Yeah,
so we're offering this, that and the other, and he's turning it down.
That situation's only going to get uglier as well, because as of January he can go and talk to prospective new clubs.
And exactly.
He might,
but you can't build a team like that.
Exactly. He's got one foot out the door and looking elsewhere.
Looking elsewhere. You see, at the moment he plays quite well at times, right? Because he knows now he's down the shop window. This is my opinion on it.
Yeah.
When it comes to Christmas, he can do the deal, as you say, Richie, with Sheahan or any team. But he has to stay at the club until the end of the season. If that's the case, he won't kick a ball for Manchester United from Christmas till the end of the season because he won't want to get injured.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to build a morale in the club and team spirit, how do you define that? You don't define it. You can't define it with somebody who doesn't want to commit himself to the club at the moment and is not playing very well anyway. Now, again, you go back. If Ferguson was there, would Ferguson put up with that? Would Klopp put up with that? Would Tuchel put up with that? No way. But I don't think Solskjaer is in a position of power to do anything about it. So what the club might be saying, well, we'll save money on it, but in the meantime, actually, you're losing matches and you're losing money. That's the problem. That's the big problem in Old Trafford.
And they've got a very difficult run coming up now. They've got Spurs away, as we mentioned, coming up on Saturday evening. Then they're away to Atalanta, Manchester City at home, and then you've got a game on the horizon before the end of November too, away to Chelsea. You would presume, given the way the wind is blowing, that Solskjaer won't be in charge by the time, say, that Chelsea game comes around by the end of the month. It could surprise us, he could still be there, but there seems to be a lack of vision at United as regards what their next manager will be, what type of manager they're looking for, what vision they have for the club for the next 3 to 5 years going forward, because the last 3 years now have to be viewed as another write-off.
Well, that was their decision. I think they wanted Solskjaer, and they do want somebody like Solskjaer who won't make a fuss. As we know, Conte is available and has been available in Italy, right? And he's available now. Would they go for him? He's a winner, and he's a proven winner. He might not be as easy to deal with as they are with Solskjaer, because they seem to be in charge of the situation there, right? But will they have the courage to say, okay, this is what we need, and we're going to do it? I think in Solskjaer's case at the moment, they could go out and play really well at the weekend. That's what you get. One weekend, then and it might be for 2 weekends, and then it goes back to where it was last week. It's lack of consistency that does it. Now, you get the likes of Conte and Tuchel and Pep Guardiola and Klopp. They're in charge of it. They don't let players do anything but what they want them to do. If you go back to the weekend, I know there was very little talk about Liverpool in the match, but Liverpool were really, really good. A well-organised team. They were going to Old Trafford. They knew what they were doing. They had the spirit about them. And they're a well-organised team. You don't get the inconsistency with Liverpool.
Yeah.
Or the top teams like we're getting at Manchester United at the moment. The fact is at Manchester United, they've got a very, very, very good, talented group of players. But you have to have a manager to manage those players and get the best from them. That hasn't been the case, I think, with Solskjaer. And I'd say it's unlikely that it's going to be the case in the future. Yeah. So they've got to make a big decision. Conte has come in the paper, said he's available. This fella's been brilliant. 2 years at Chelsea, win the cup and the league, and he wasn't getting on with the players supposedly because he was supposed to be too tough. Then he goes back to Italy, I think it was Inter Milan, and wins the championship that Juventus have dominated for nearly 10 years. This fella's a winner, but he's a hard nut, and he would insist on having charge of who comes and who goes, like all the good managers do. All managers going into the game have a vision, if that's the right word, Richie, of how they want the team to play and who they can get in to play in the way they want them to play. That's a vision they have, right? Now, they have to be allowed to fulfill that vision. In other words, I want Joe Bloggs, I want him, I want him, I want him, I want him out, I want him out, I'm out. Solskjaer hasn't had that position.
Our football, of course, is with thanks on Off the Ball here, thanks to Sky. Don't miss Spurs versus Manchester United on Saturday Night Football, live only on Sky Sports. John, let's talk about Liverpool for a second, because as much talk as there has been about United being awful and Solskjaer being tactically inept and all that kind of stuff, like Liverpool, and particularly away from home this season, have been absolutely scintillating. Like, away from home, they put 5 past Porto, 5 past Watford, they scored 3 at Atletico Madrid, they scored 5 at Manchester United. Away from home, scoring goals, unbeaten so far in the league this season. They look like a real prospect yet again, and it's testament to what Klopp has been able to do. When they've not exactly been active in the transfer market. Ibrahim Konate, who did okay, he wasn't asked to do much last Sunday. It was their only real signing this past summer. They look very, very good again.
Yeah, they had a bad season last season, as we know. A lot of injuries and lots of things going on. But Klopp has actually put his mark on Liverpool. You can tell from the way they play since he's got there, and again the away from home business. I think Klopp's attitude is, I don't care whether we're playing away from home. And funny enough, I totally agree with him, and we can come to that if you want to in a minute. Playing away from home is a state of mind that, you hear managers, we've got to keep it tight here for the first 15 minutes. There's a lot of rubbish talk, Richie. If you're going to keep it tight for what about the last 15 minutes? Do you not have to keep that tight? You play from home. And my experience now is playing in Liverpool in the old days and the great team. I love playing at Liverpool because they talked about the cop end, they're going to suck the ball into the net. It's total nonsense. If you're playing as a player and you're in the middle of the field, and I'm talking about myself now, and we were playing and Eddie Gray was on the left wing, what was stopping me, apart from the Liverpool players, from knocking it out to Eddie Gray? It's a football pitch. It's a ball is the same wherever you play. It's a state of mind. And Klopp has that in a big way. I don't think he says to the players, listen, lads, we've got to keep it tight here. His attitude is, listen, we're playing on Manchester United, we're playing on the pitch, the ball's the same, the pitch is the same, we go out and play and we do the things that we should be doing, either defensively or offensively. This is what we do. But the players are listening to him, and he doesn't take any nonsense from them at all. This is what you do, and this is what I'm telling you to do. And they do it. I've said one thing, Richie, and you might answer it for me. I believe that if Klopp was offered Pogba for nothing, he wouldn't take him.
No, I'd say he looks for a certain type of player, and it's one that'll suit his team. And I think that's been one of the things you always hear about Klopp, and of prospective signings, was mentioned a lot. He'll be in conversation with them or their family, and he'll know what kind of person he's signing before he actually goes and gets the check.
But he sees them. The main thing, he sees them on the pitch. He sees, well, look, these guys are the right character on the pitch, and when he gets them, and he stands no nonsense whatsoever. They have to go out and play the way he wants them to play. Or he'd have them, when he had Benteke, do you remember Benteke?
Yeah.
He kicked him out straight away. Couldn't take him.
Years ago now, all right, yeah.
You know, I remember him coming off the pitch in one of the matches at Anfield, and he's given him a right telling off. He just couldn't stand that type of individual. And he won't stand any nonsense from anybody. So if Pogba, in my opinion, was at Liverpool and he played the way he plays in some of the matches and comes on the television talking the way he's talking, right? There's no way Klopp would hold on to him. No way. And yet now you go to Manchester United and they're offering him new contracts every week, bigger contracts every week, playing the way and doing what he's doing. That's when the club is in trouble.
Yeah. John, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think you've done enough to extend your contract by another week here on the show. We'll give you a shout next Thursday.
Richie.
John, we'll talk to you next week. Have a good one between now and then, all right?
All right, thanks, Richie.
There you go. There's John Giles here in Off the Ball.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.